Chapter 544. Until now. Their chance had finally come. Because of the changes in the chaos outside the world, the heavenly Tao had no time to look at the untainted world, which gave the chaos demon gods a chance. They took advantage of the fact that the great masters were distracted to suppress the connate ferocious beasts and suddenly attacked, trying to devour their true spirits and replace them. Of course, those great masters had been able to dominate the untainted world for so many years, so they were not to be trifled with. How could they be so easily defeated by the chaos demon gods? After a short period of shock, they immediately came back to their senses and fought with the chaos demon gods. Although the original chaos demon gods were extremely powerful, after being weakened several times, they did not have much strength left and were on par with the great masters. In addition, the battlefield took place in the bodies of the great masters, so they had the home advantage. The remnant spirits of the chaos demon gods were in an away battle, so they did not have the advantage and were even at a disadvantage. Therefore, the chaos demon gods might not be able to successfully possess the great masters. Perhaps, the remnant spirits of the chaos demon gods would be devoured by the great masters and become resources for them to reach a higher realm. Therefore, in the end, it was hard to say who would succeed who. However, there was one thing that was certain. After the battle between the chaos demon gods and the great masters was over, no matter who won the final victory, a large number of primordial chaos experts would emerge in the untainted world. If the chaos demon gods won, their strength would definitely improve by leaps and bounds. There was no doubt about that. If the great masters won, they would definitely get the origin of the chaos demon gods, and their cultivation would naturally improve by leaps and bounds. Therefore, not long after, primordial chaos Daluo Jingxian would be in the untainted world. It would no longer be as scarce as before. At that time it would be the real great world. In the untainted world, the primordial chaos sect master would appear frequently and compete between heaven and earth. Even the saints would find it difficult to hide their brilliance. At that time, it would be difficult for the saints to dominate the untainted world. However, it was also because of this that the great masters focused all their energy on fighting with the chaos demon gods. They had no extra energy to deal with the connate ferocious beasts. As a result, in the untainted land, the primordial ferocious beasts became more and more powerful, and the dark sect became more and more arrogant. The human tribe and the primordial alliance gradually lost control of the situation and were suppressed by both sides. Even the third-generation disciples of the celestial sect of wonders had no choice but to retreat to the ancestral courts of the three sects under the suppression of the second-generation disciples of the devil sect. It wasn't that the third-generation disciples of the Xian sect weren't strong enough, but that the demon gate didn't abide by the rules and sent out the older generation to bully the younger generation of the Xian sect. It would be a miracle if the disciples of the celestial sect of wonders could beat him. In this way, the chaos of the connate ferocious beasts and the chaos of the demon sect had completely erupted. The primordial world had entered a situation where the demonic Tao was rising and the Tao was disappearing. Just as the situation in the great desolate Aeon turned increasingly dangerous, the heaven realm moved. Heavenly Emperor Hao Tian, Great Emperor Zi Wei, North Star Emperor Zichen Clan, and Great Emperor Lei Zhe of the South Pole. A celestial emperor and 3 emperors, a total of 4 half-step primordial chaos cultivators, had come down to the primeval world to suppress the connate ferocious beasts and the demon sect. The heavenly realm was light and agile, so it was located high up in the sky and was the closest to the heavenly Tao. Therefore, in the great chaos of the great desolate Aeon, the heaven realm could remain calm as usual and not be affected by the turmoil. It was also because of this that the heaven realm could draw out most of its power to suppress the chaos in the great desolate Aeon. On the other hand, the netherworld realm was the opposite. The netherworld realm was located in the deepest part of the great desolate Aeon. Below him was the bottomless land of the 9 nether. No one knew how many secrets were buried under the 9 underworlds. But one thing was certain, there was definitely the remains of the chaos demon god in there. Even as powerful as the great desolate Aeon was, it was impossible to completely transform the remains of the chaos demon god. Therefore, the remains of the chaos demon god that had not been transformed by the origin of the great desolate Aeon were all worthless. They were all sunk into the land of the ultimate and disposed of as waste. Those that were still valuable sank into the 9 underworlds and used the power of time to slowly refine them to strengthen the origin of the great desolate Aeon. Originally, this was a perfect plan. But as the true spirit of the chaos demon god broke the seal, it became a huge pit. Almost at the same time, dozens of chaos demon gods rushed out of the 9 underworlds and attacked the netherworld realm. If Hutu had not activated the 6 paths of reincarnation disc in time to suppress these chaos demon gods, the netherworld realm would have changed hands today. However, it was still a little difficult to suppress these chaos demon gods with the 6 paths of reincarnation disc. It was not that these chaos demon gods were too strong, nor was it that the 6 paths of reincarnation disc was too weak. It was that the 6 paths of reincarnation disc had to bear too much pressure. As the treasure of reincarnation of the great desolate Aeon, the 6 paths of reincarnation disc was operating all the time to maintain the reincarnation of all living beings in the great desolate Aeon. Given the size of the great desolate Aeon, how many living beings had to be reincarnated every day? And the reincarnation of living beings required power. The more living beings there were, the more power they needed. Usually, in order to maintain the reincarnation of the entire great desolate Aeon, it was already a big burden for the 6 paths of reincarnation disc. It was the same even if it was a treasure of chaos. In particular, with the outbreak of the Khanate ferocious beasts and the chaos of the demon sect, more living beings died in the great desolate Aeon. The 6 paths of reincarnation disc was facing more and more pressure, and it had to use more power to maintain the normal operation of reincarnation. Under such circumstances, it still had to suppress dozens of powerful chaos demon gods. Even with Hutu's help, it gradually became more and more powerless. For this reason, Hutu's incarnation, Hutu Empress, Fengdu Ghost Emperor, and Nether River Patriarch had to work together to mobilize the power of the origin of the Netherworld realm to help Hutu suppress the Chaos Demon gods. However, just as they were in a stalemate with the Chaos Demon gods, a large number of strange ferocious beasts suddenly surged out of the 9 underworlds and attacked the Netherworld realm. They were extremely powerful, and they did not have a fixed shape. Like souls, they could change their shape at will and were good at attacking the primordial spirit. Ordinary means could not hurt them at all. Moreover, among them, Tai Jinxian ferocious beasts were the most numerous, but there were also Daluo Jinxian beasts and Sage-to-be ferocious beasts. Fortunately, after the Great Witch Demon War, ancestral witch Xianming led the surviving members of the witch tribe to the Netherworld realm to seek refuge with Hutu. It was because of this that he was able to take action in time when the ferocious beasts attacked the Netherworld realm. He led the remaining masters of the witch tribe to stop these ferocious beasts outside the Netherworld realm. Otherwise, when the higher-ups of the Netherworld realm were unable to take action collectively, a large number of powerful ferocious beasts suddenly attacked the Netherworld realm, which would inevitably bring a huge disaster to it. However, although the Netherworld realm blocked this disaster, it did not have the extra strength to support the untainted land. The only thing they could do was to try their best to guard the Netherworld realm and prevent these powerful ferocious beasts from spreading to the untainted land, so as not to add fuel to the fire of the untainted land that was in crisis. Just as Feng Zichen and the others descended to the lower world, in the depths of the void, a pool emitting colorful light quietly revealed its traces. The void silently split open, and this colorful sacred pool appeared in the untainted land. In an instant, the wind and clouds between heaven and earth changed. Boundless rainbow-colored mist converged towards the divine pool. Whir! Like boiling water, the water in the pool emitted a whirring sound. A budding lotus flower slowly appeared in the middle of the pool. Immediately, the Khanate Taoist rhyme filled the air, and endless rules appeared and wrapped around it. Obviously, this mysterious lotus flower was a Khanate item, and it was a peerless item. Otherwise, it would not have such an extraordinary phenomenon. This mysterious lotus was enveloped by 7-colored light. Its entire body emitted a dreamlike luster. It gave off an extremely illusory feeling, as if it didn't really exist. However, it was really beautiful. With just a glance, one could unconsciously sink into it. In the dream, one would experience the various forms of life and comprehend the wonders of the 7 emotions and 6 desires. They would never wake up again, and they would die silently. Demonic. This was an extremely demonic lotus flower. It was not a divine lotus, but a demonic lotus. A complete demonic lotus. A Khanate demonic lotus. Walala. With the appearance of the Khanate demonic lotus, the water in the sacred pool disappeared at a speed visible to the naked eye, becoming nutrients for the demonic lotus growth. At the same time, the colorful mist from heaven and earth also poured into the Khanate demonic lotus to accelerate its growth. With the help of these 2 forces, it did not take long for the Khanate demonic lotus to fully mature and slowly bloom. The huge flower bud had 9 petals, and it slowly bloomed in the surroundings. Immediately, an intoxicating phenomenon, together with an extremely dreamy mist, spread in all directions. It was also at this moment that the Khanate demonic lotus fully bloomed. In the center of the flower bud, a handsome man in colorful clothes and holding a divine mirror gradually appeared on the platform. He was extremely beautiful, and there was not a single flaw on his body. He was like the most perfect piece of art in the world. His temperament was complex and changeable. Sometimes he was like a god, sometimes a demon, and sometimes a ghost. He was constantly changing. However, each of his temperaments gave people a feeling of closeness, and people could not help but believe in him. Moreover, if one took a closer look, they would discover that his appearance and figure were not the same. Just like his temperament, his appearance and figure were also changing all the time. There was no fixed form. This was not a god, but a demon. A natural demon. My name is the demonic heart. I have no shape, no form, no life, and no death. I was born with the 7 emotions and 6 desires, and I exist in the hearts of all living beings. The 7 emotions are eternal, and the 6 desires are not known. I am immortal. Suddenly, the devil stood up and announced his existence to the primeval world. Wang wang wang. Heaven and earth hummed loudly as if celebrating the birth of a new connate god-fiend. At the same time, the chi of 7 emotions and 6 desires in the world seemed to have found its master, and it excitedly gathered toward the demonic heart to increase its strength. Rumble! In the depths of the void, in the mysterious unknown place, where the long river of fate was, there was another change with the birth of the demonic heart. Among the countless tributaries of fate, one of the huge but incomparably pitch-black tributaries suddenly branched out and flowed toward an unknown place. That huge pitch-black tributary represented the destiny of the demonic sect. The small tributaries that branched out from his body represented the destiny of the demonic heart. This meant that heaven and earth recognized the identity of the demonic heart. A wisp of the destiny that belonged to the demonic sect was given to the demonic heart. At this point, the demonic heart had obtained the destiny of the demonic sect and became the overlord of the demonic path in one fell swoop. Yes, an overlord of the demonic path who came from outside the demonic sect and did not belong to the demonic sect. Who is it? Sensing that the destiny of the demonic sect was damaged, the giants of the demonic sect were naturally furious. They all sent out their divine senses to search for the madman who dared to split the destiny of the demonic sect. But how could they find him? The demonic heart was invisible and formless, and it existed in the hearts of all living beings. Unless one severed all 7 emotions and extinguished all 6 desires, no one could escape the parasitism of the demonic heart. With just a thought, he could hide in the hearts of all living beings, and no one would be able to detect his traces. Haha, let's go. Before the divine senses of the demonic path giant swept over, the demonic heart smiled faintly and then disappeared on the spot without a trace. No matter how the demonic path giants calculated, other than the name of the demonic heart, there was no other information, let alone his whereabouts. Demonic heart? I'll remember you. How dare you plunder the destiny of the demonic sect? No one in this world can save you. After leaving behind a few harsh words, the divine senses of the demonic path giants slowly retreated. The aura of the world devastator Taoist? Interesting. I was worried about not being able to find your whereabouts. I didn't expect you to show up on your own accord. It's really fate. You deserve to die. After the divine senses of the demonic path giants left, the void suddenly distorted, and the figure of the demonic heart appeared again. However, what was different from before was that his face was filled with a strange smile. That was because he had discovered the aura of a long-lost enemy. The Black Lotus of Destruction. World Devastator Taoist. With the outbreak of the demonic calamity in the primordial world, Feng Zichen's old enemy, the World Devastator Taoist, finally couldn't help but appear. That's right. The demonic heart was Feng Zichen's incarnation. With the aura of 7 emotions and 6 desires, coupled with a connate creation origin, he condensed the connate god-fiend incarnation. The incarnation of the demonic heart was an incarnation that Feng Zichen had condensed specifically to deal with the Western sect. On the eve of the demon race's massacre, he had sent the pool of 7 emotions and 6 desires that had nurtured the demonic heart incarnation into the depths of the void, quietly waiting for the opportunity to appear. Unexpectedly, as the situation of the demonic path's expansion gradually formed, the demonic heart incarnation actually appeared in advance due to the destiny of the demonic path and became the overlord of the demonic path. The matter of opportunity. It was really unfathomable. Since the demonic heart was Feng Zichen's incarnation, Then that divine mirror was naturally the supreme-grade Khanate spirit treasure, the mortal mirror. And that ninth-grade Khanate demon lotus was the Khanate spirit treasure given to the demonic heart by heaven and earth. It was the superior-grade Khanate spirit treasure, the ninth-grade black lotus of the demonic heart. As for the demonic heart's rainbow cloud robe. Chapter 545. It was also a Khanate spirit treasure. It was called the Seven Emotions Heavenly Robe. It was dreamlike and illusory. It was between reality and illusion. It could ignore most of the divine powers of the primordial world. It was a superior-grade Khanate spirit treasure that contained 36 Khanate divine seals. A Khanate god fiend. Of course, it couldn't be shabby when it was born. Especially for a mental demon that was born with great luck. It couldn't be shabby when it was born. Heaven and earth would naturally prepare a good set of belongings for it so that it wouldn't have to live in poverty. However, even with so many treasures, the cultivation level of the mental demon wasn't very strong. It was only at the early stage of Daluo Jingxian. Moreover, it was extremely difficult for it to increase its cultivation level. The heavenly Tao was fair. Since the mental demon was born with the ability to be almost immortal, it naturally had shortcomings in other aspects. This shortcoming was that it couldn't increase its cultivation level through normal cultivation methods. In other words, the mental demon couldn't breathe spirit qi. What it could absorb was only the qi of 7 emotions and 6 desires that came from the hearts of all living beings. All the methods of the mental demon, be it dermic powers or divine powers, relied on the qi of 7 emotions and 6 desires. This was the foundation of his existence. The qi of 7 emotions and 6 desires was as important to the mental demon as spirit qi was to cultivators. Moreover, the qi of 7 emotions and 6 desires was only the source of the mental demon's power. It couldn't increase its cultivation level. If it wanted to break through, it could only devour other cultivators so that it could occupy their Tao fruits and refine their cultivation as nourishment to strengthen itself. For example, if the mental demon occupied the Tao heart of a sage-to-be mighty figure, it could immediately become a sage-to-be mighty figure. The mental demon's Tao was the Tao of plunder. Plunder the Tao of all living beings to form its own Tao. Compared to the demonic sect's Tao, the mental demon's Tao was the true demonic Tao. It was more like a demon than the demonic sect cultivators, harming heaven and earth to nourish itself. This was the supreme true demon. World Devastator Taoist? He dares to enter the primordial world at this time? This is the will of heaven. If he doesn't face the tribulation, who will? Somewhere in the primordial world. After learning that the World Devastator Taoist had reappeared from the incarnation of the mental demon, Feng Zichen immediately sent Lei Zhe's incarnation of the South Pole Emperor to search for him so that he could face the tribulation. As for why Lei Zhe's incarnation? Of course it was because there was a huge karma between him and the World Devastator Taoist. His vow to kill the World Devastator Taoist was still ringing in his ears. It was only by relying on such karma that Feng Zichen was able to kill the symbol of providence of the demonic sects in this era where the demonic sects were flourishing. Otherwise, how could the Black Lotus of Destruction, the treasure of destiny of the Dark Sect, be so easy to kill? One had to know that Tianming was in the Demon Gate, not the Profound Gate. If not for the fact that the World Devastator Taoist had been too greedy and forcefully devoured the vitality of the 9 Thunderlords of the Thunder Lake, Feng Zichen would not have been able to find the opportunity to attack him now. Killing an innate god fiend's embryo was a great taboo in the world, but World Devastator Taoist had killed 9 of them in a row. He could only say that this was the will of the heavens. The World Devastator Taoist should have died. As for his previous plan of leaving the World Devastator Taoist to the Thunder Lord of the 9 Heavens, he naturally dropped it. An oath. It was better to do it himself. Did Feng Zichen want to kill World Devastator Taoist? Of course, he wanted to even in his dreams. Unfortunately, he really could not find any traces of World Devastator Taoist. Thus, he had no choice but to leave the mission of killing World Devastator Taoist to the Thunder Lord of the 9 Heavens. However, since World Devastator Taoist had taken the initiative to appear now, Feng Zichen did not mind killing him along the way. In order to solve a problem in his heart that had yet to be solved. North of the primordial world. At a place where Khanate ferocious beasts gathered. World Devastator Taoist suddenly appeared and used a demonic technique to tame all the Khanate ferocious beasts. After that, He originally wanted to drive these connate ferocious beasts to where the human race was and wreak havoc to take revenge for being severely injured by Feng Zichen several times back then. However, the moment he turned to leave, the surrounding space suddenly changed. Lightning. Endless lightning. It surged out of the void like seawater and instantly drowned the area he was in, forming a huge sea of lightning around him. At the same time, with the formation of this sea of lightning, all of World Devastator Taoist's connections to the outside world were cut off. Time and space also froze at this moment. In other words, no matter how long he had been in this sea of lightning, the time and space in the outside world were not affected at all. It was still maintained at the moment when World Devastator Taoist turned around. This is Luai's. It's the South Pole Great Emperor of the Heavenly Court. After looking around for a while, World Devastator Taoist found his surroundings more and more familiar. After carefully recalling for a moment, he remembered that this sea of lightning was exactly the same as the layout of the Luais in the past. This time, he understood everything. He knew that the one who trapped him here was one of the 4 heavenly deities of the Heavenly Court, the South Pole Longevity Emperor. Because only the connate Tao Master who was born in the Luais could create such a realistic scene in the Luais, the Luais Great Emperor of the South Pole. World Devastator Taoist of the demonic sect greets the Emperor. May I know why the Emperor is blocking my path? World Devastator Taoist suppressed the dissatisfaction in his heart and bowed respectfully. After knowing the identity of the person who came, he clearly understood one thing. That was, he was no match for the other party no matter what. If they really fought, not to mention him, even the current leader of the demonic sect would not be the other party's match. In the entire demonic sect, unless demon ancestor Luo Ho appeared, no one would be a match for the 4 heavenly deities in a one-on-one fight. After all, they were the 4 heavenly deities. They were the strongest 4 karmic ranks below the sage position. With the support of the power of their ranks, they could even erupt with power comparable to a sage. Facing such a powerful existence, how could World Devastator Taoist, who had just entered the sage-to-be realm, resist? The difference in ranks was simply too great. Therefore, no matter how dissatisfied World Devastator Taoist was with Feng Zichen blocking his path, he did not dare to show it on his face. He was afraid that he would anger the other party and bring about a fatal disaster. Of course, this was mainly because he knew that among the 4 heavenly deities, other than the North Star Emperor, the other 3 heavenly deities had nothing to do with the mystic sect. If the other party was the heavenly Emperor Haotian, World Devastator Taoist would have resisted long ago. If the other party was not from the mystic sect, it meant that there was no conflict between them and they could become allies. Why did I stop you? Don't you know anything about this, World Devastator Taoist? There was a distortion in the void as Feng Zichen stepped out and stood in front of World Devastator Taoist, speaking coldly. If I remember correctly, this is the first time I've met the Emperor. I wonder why the Emperor is so hostile to me. Could it be that Wait. Could it be? At this point, World Devastator Taoist suddenly thought of something and frowned. Could it be that the Emperor is here because of the Thunder Lord of the 9 Heavens? In World Devastator Taoist's memory, the only thing that was related to the Thunderlock was when he devoured the Thunder Lord of the 9 Heavens. But this? What did it have to do with the South Pole Emperor? Although both sides were innate gods born from the Lei Zhe, it was clear that they weren't born at the same time. Otherwise, the South Pole Great Emperor's fate would have been the same as the Thunder Lord of the 9 Heavens, devoured by World Devastator Taoist. However, this was not the case in the present world. This meant that the South Pole Great Emperor was a new Thunderlock born after the Thunder Lord of the 9 Heavens died. If that was the case, the 2 parties should not have crossed paths. The South Pole Great Emperor had no reason to avenge him. On the contrary, he should be grateful to World Devastator Taoist. If World Devastator Taoist had not devoured the Thunder Lord of the 9 Heavens, it would not have been easy for the South Pole Great Emperor to control the Thunder Lock alone. At the very least, he would have to fight the Thunder Lord of the 9 Heavens first. That's right. I'm here for this. Feng Zichen nodded and continued. Since you've figured it out, do you want to end your own life? Or do you want me to send you on your way? To him, it did not matter if World Devastator Taoist understood the reason. What was important was that he wanted World Devastator Taoist dead. Emperor, although you and the Thunder Lord of the 9 Heavens are both from the Thunderlock, you don't know each other. Why do you want to avenge them? If you kill me, you'll avenge them, but you'll also offend the entire demon sect. It's not worth it. I hope you'll reconsider. The World Devastator Taoist's expression completely changed when he heard that. He quickly explained the drawbacks of killing him to Feng Zichen in a slightly hurried tone. He wanted to use the demon sect's power to pressure Feng Zichen and force him to change his mind. World Devastator Taoist was not joking. Killing him, he would really offend the entire demon sect. Although the demon sect had 2 connate cardinal treasures, the god-slaying spear and the 4 immortal slaying swords, their killing intent was too strong. However, the murderous aura of these 2 connate cardinal treasures was so strong that they could not suppress the light from Providence. Demon ancestor Rahu had no choice but to use the 12th grade Black Lotus of Destruction to suppress the demon sect's providence. And World Devastator Taoist was formed from the 12th grade Black Lotus of Destruction. Killing him would shake the foundation of the demon sect. How could the demon sect not be angry? It would not be an exaggeration to say that they would offend the entire demon sect. However, since Feng Zichen wanted to kill World Devastator Taoist, why would he care about that? The demon sect could not scare him. The mystic sect was more like it. Since World Devastator Taoist is unwilling to end his own life, I'll spend some effort to personally send you on your last journey. With a smile, Feng Zichen pointed downwards. The entire sea of lightning instantly boiled and gradually gathered towards World Devastator Taoist, forming a huge thunder Dao furnace to refine him to death. That's right. I have something to tell you. After the Thunder Lord of the 9 Heavens perished, the Thunderlocks will gather their remaining power and was reborn. It can be said that I inherited everything from the Thunder Lord of the 9 Heavens, including their karma. Therefore, it's not wrong for you to die in my hands. Feng Zichen explained as he looked at World Devastator Taoist, who was struggling in the Thunder Dao furnace. Originally, he did not need to explain. It was good to let World Devastator Taoist be a confused ghost. However, on second thought, if he did not have a suitable reason to kill World Devastator Taoist, it was hard to guarantee that others would not recklessly guess his true identity. After all, Thunderlock's incarnation was too mysterious. It had never appeared in the primordial world before. It was as if it had appeared out of thin air. It would be strange if no one guessed his true identity. If, by chance, someone guessed his true identity, then there would be a lot of fun. Therefore, Feng Zichen decided to take advantage of this opportunity to tell a half-truth about his fabricated background. At the very least, it could also dispel some people's suspicions. To reduce the risk of his true identity being exposed. Haha, I am the symbol of the demon sect. If you kill me, the demon ancestor will not let you off. Thunderlock, you will definitely be buried with me. Inside the Thunder Dao furnace, World Devastator Taoist was in complete despair after hearing Feng Zichen's words. He could not help but roar loudly. He knew that he was finished. There was no hope of survival. In order to end the karma inherited from the Thunder Lord of the 9th Heaven, even if he did not hesitate to offend the demon sect, the other party would definitely kill him. After all, compared to his own Dao path. So what if he offended the entire demon sect? Then there's no need for you to worry. World Devastator Taoist. You won't be able to see it anyway. After taking one last look at World Devastator Taoist, Feng Zichen used the authority of the South Pole Emperor to mobilize the mighty power of heaven and earth to raise the power of the Thunder Dao furnace to the level of primordial chaos. As a result, World Devastator Taoist was even less of a match. Not long after, he was killed by Feng Zichen. How could a mere early-stage quasi-saint resist the attack of a primordial chaos? The outcome was already decided. World Devastator Taoist was bound to die. From the beginning to the end, Feng Zichen did not use any other divine abilities. He only used some of the power that belonged to the South Pole Emperor, and easily killed World Devastator Taoist. Firstly, he was cautious. He was worried that others would be able to see the relationship between his clones through clues. Secondly, there was no need at all. At this point, the gap between him and World Devastator Taoist was already big enough. It could be said that one was in the sky and the other was on the ground. Back then, he had needed to be 120% focused to deal with World Devastator Taoist. Now, he could destroy him with a flip of his hand. There was really no need to invest too much effort. After killing World Devastator Taoist, Feng Zichen did not put away the Thunder Dao furnace. Instead, He continued to use his power to refine something. Just like that, 49 days later, Feng Zichen put away the Thunder Dao furnace. A 12th grade black lotus flew out and landed in his hand. It was World Devastator Taoist's original body. It was the top supreme grade connate spirit treasure of the primordial world, the 12th grade black lotus of destruction. You brought this upon yourself. What a pity for World Devastator Taoist's top grade talent. Looking at the 12th grade black lotus of destruction in his hand, Feng Zichen sighed regretfully. One had to know that in terms of background, there were very few people in the primordial world who could surpass World Devastator Taoist other than the three pure ones, who were of the Panga lineage. The 12th grade black lotus of destruction could be said to be a top-grade origin in the primordial world. It had the possibility of becoming a primordial chaos Daluo Jingxian, just like great immortal Yang Mei and Saint Zhuan Ti. Unfortunately, World Devastator Taoist was too capable. He had wasted his top-grade talent in the primordial world. Chapter 546. The World Devastator Taoist had spent his entire life. Perhaps it was to transform or to cultivate. He had devoured countless connate spiritual items. Among them, there were many that were more precious than the Ninth Heaven Thunderlord. If not for that, the World Devastator Taoist would not have been able to reach the quasi-saint realm so quickly. One had to know that he had been severely injured by Feng Zichen several times, causing his origin source to be greatly damaged. Under normal circumstances, it would be extremely difficult for him to maintain his current strength, let alone improve his cultivation level. However, the reality was that not only did the World Devastator Taoist's strength not deteriorate, but it also improved. He broke through from the Daluo Jingxian realm to the quasi-saint realm. Clearly, he had borrowed external strength. He had devoured many connate spiritual items to make up for his missing origin source. Only this method could heal the World Devastator Taoist's injuries in a short period of time and allow his cultivation level to improve by leaps and bounds. However, how could connate spiritual items be so easy to devour? Every connate spiritual item was born from heaven and earth. They had great luck and great creation. Although they were not as good as connate god fiends, they were still favored by heaven and earth. Therefore, killing them was unknown. Of course, with the providence that the World Devastator Taoist had inherited from the creation Green Lotus, devouring some connate spiritual items was nothing. It would not affect him much. However, there was a limit to everything. For example, the World Devastator Taoist devoured connate spiritual items without any restraint. No matter how great his providence was, he could not withstand such a creation. It could be said that the World Devastator Taoist's death was caused by Feng Zichen. In reality, his providence had run out and he had been abandoned by the heavenly Tao. Otherwise, did he really think that the World Devastator Taoist was so easy to kill? He was a connate god fiend who had the legacy of the Chaos Green Lotus and had the providence to open heaven. In terms of status, even if he was not as good as the three pure ones, he was not far behind. He had the characteristic of turning misfortune into luck and misfortune into fortune. If the heavenly Tao had not abandoned the World Devastator Taoist, even if Feng Zichen's cultivation level was far higher than his, he would not be able to kill him today. This might even become his opportunity. It was his own doing that gave Feng Zichen the chance to kill him. Go! Putting away the grade 12 Black Lotus of World Destruction, Feng Zichen cast a spell to erase all traces of what had happened here before hurriedly leaving. The 12th grade Black Lotus of World Destruction was of great importance. It was the treasure of the demonic sect. The loss of this treasure would definitely cause a huge commotion. Perhaps even the fiend ancestor Rahu, who had disappeared for many years, would appear because of this. Feng Zichen was not an idiot. It was impossible for him to stupidly stay where he was and wait for the evil cult elites to come and take revenge. Now that he had gotten his hands on the benefits, it was best to slip away. With the level 12 Black Lotus of World Destruction in his hand, Feng Zichen did not dare to stay in untainted land any longer. He hurriedly returned to the South Pole Star and heaved a sigh of relief. He was not afraid of the demonic sect's experts, but he was afraid of demon ancestor Rahu. This was the true supreme expert of the primordial world, the person who had once suppressed Tao ancestor Hongjun. Who wouldn't be afraid of him? Feng Zichen was not even a primordial chaos Daluo Jingxian. Of course, he did not dare to face such a person directly. It would be safer to hide in his own base camp, the boundless starry sky. With God Pangu around, At least his safety could be guaranteed. I have to find an opportunity to send this 12th grade Black Lotus of world destruction to Xianxia. Even after returning to the boundless starry sky, Feng Zichen was still a little worried. He felt that this Black Lotus of world destruction was really a big trouble and could not be kept in his hands. Otherwise, if the fiend ancestor Rahu followed his aura to find him, wouldn't it be uncomfortable? Even if the fiend ancestor did not take action, this treasure would be exposed sooner or later if it was kept in his hands. So, he had to send the 12th grade Black Lotus of world destruction away. No, it was best to destroy it. Coincidentally, the Green Lotus of creation was in the hands of Xianxia. He could send this 12th grade Black Lotus of world destruction over, and let it be devoured to become a resource for him to upgrade to an innate treasure. Now, Feng Zichen had the 12th grade White Lotus of purification, the 12th grade Black Lotus of world destruction, and the pool of Golden Lotus of merit that he had obtained from the 8 treasure pool of Mount Meru. If the Green Lotus of creation devoured all these innate lotus flowers, it would probably become a top-grade innate treasure in one fell swoop. Its power would be comparable to the 3 heaven-opening treasures. Thinking of this, Feng Zichen could not help but feel a little excited. It turned out that he had unknowingly collected so many Chaos Green Lotus fragments. If he planned properly, he might be able to gather the 4 innate lotus platforms in the future and recreate a trace of the divine power of the Chaos Green Lotus. Hongmeng Daozhong come. With a slight movement in his heart, Feng Zichen summoned Hongmeng Daozhong and put away the 12th grade Black Lotus of world destruction. In an instant, the aura of the 12th grade Black Lotus of world destruction. It completely disappeared from the primordial world. No matter how the demonic experts searched, they could not sense its aura at all. It was the same even if the demon ancestor personally took action. The power of Hongmeng Daozhong was no joke. It could even hide the heavenly way, let alone the demon ancestor. However, in this way, Hongmeng Daozhong could no longer be used. Otherwise, once Hongmeng Daozhong was used, it would leak the aura of the 12th grade Black Lotus of world destruction that it was suppressing. But this did not matter, because soon, the 12th grade Black Lotus of world destruction would become the resource for the Green Lotus of creation to become an innate treasure. Go! With a stroke of his hand, Feng Zichen tore open a spatial rift and sent Hongmeng Daozhong in. On the other side of the spatial rift was the location of the 3 immortal islands of the East Sea. At this time, the saints were not there, and the heavenly way was powerless to look after the primordial world. It was the best time for the Green Lotus of creation to become an innate treasure. While Luai's incarnation was busy dealing with the 12th grade Black Lotus of world destruction, Feng Zichen's other 2 incarnations were not idle either. Gaochen's incarnation first took out the Human Path Imperial Seal, the Human Path Treasure, from the mini-primordial world, and then hurried to the ancestral land of the human race. At this time, the ancestral land of the human race was being besieged by a group of innate ferocious beasts. There were millions of innate ferocious beasts, and each of them was no lower than a golden immortal. Among them, there were tens of thousands of Taiyi Jingxian beasts and dozens of Daluo Jingxian beast kings. The most terrifying ones were the 6 leading innate ferocious beasts. Their bodies were incomparably huge. His strength was even more terrifying. It was comparable to the strength of a demisage in the middle stage. Under the siege of these innate ferocious beasts, the protective boundary that Nuwa had set up back then could not help but tremble as if it could break at any time. If the barrier was really broken, the human race would face a calamity of annihilation. How could a Daluo Jingxian survive the siege of millions of innate ferocious beasts if his cultivation was not as strong as a Daluo Jingxian? If the human race's lower and middle levels were all killed, what could they do even if the upper echelons survived? How was that different from annihilation? Therefore, the human race's boundary could not be broken. With this thought in mind, Fuxi resolutely walked out of the human race's boundary and fought with the 6 pre-saint innate ferocious beasts to relieve the pressure that the human race's boundary was facing. If Fuxi was still in his peak state, he would not be afraid of 6 mid-saint connate ferocious beasts, let alone 6 mid-saint connate ferocious beasts. Unfortunately, Fuxi's cultivation had only recovered to the early saint realm. Without the connate god-fiend body that had been refined for hundreds of millions of years, his cultivation was not much stronger than the beasts. He could still win against 1 or 2 beasts. It would be a bit difficult to deal with 3 or 4 beasts. But now, fighting 1 against 6, he was no match for them at all. The 6 mid-saint connate ferocious beasts did not use any other means at all. They just relied on their powerful innate bodies to beat Fuxi into retreat. It had to be said that as the connate ferocious beasts transformed from the remains of the chaos demon god, their bodies were really too strong. Fuxi's magic could only scratch their skin when it hit their bodies. It could not cause any harm at all. Fortunately, the He-Tu and the inscription of the Luo were now in Fuxi's hands. It was with this treasure that Fuxi could barely hold on under the siege of the six beasts and pose a threat to them. But even so, as time passed, Fuxi could not hold on any longer. A supreme-grade innate spiritual treasure. It was not that easy to activate. Every time Fuxi activated the He-Tu and the inscription of the Luo with all his strength, it was also a huge burden for him. The power of a pre-saint was not endless. Once Fuxi's power was exhausted, he would die in the hands of the six beasts. Usually, Fuxi could run away if he could not win. But now the human race was behind him. If he were to leave, the human race would be finished. So, in order to protect the human race, he could not leave even if he died. Finally, after killing 2 connate ferocious beasts in a row, Fuxi's power was also exhausted. He was powerless to activate the He-Tu and the inscription of the Luo to fight against the remaining 4 connate ferocious beasts. Cough, cough. I didn't expect that I, Fuxi, would have such a day. Looking at the 4 ferocious beasts getting closer and closer, Fuxi first laughed self-deprecatingly. Then, a trace of madness appeared on his face. He was about to burn his origin and perish together with the 4 ferocious beasts in front of him. This was the only thing he could do for the human race now. Boom! Rays of brilliance bloomed from Fuxi's body. A terrifying aura spread, stirring the surrounding void into pieces. He was going all out. His connate origin was burning wildly. Roar! Even the 4 ferocious beasts, who had no spiritual intelligence, could not help but roar uneasily under the influence of Fuxi's aura. The prediction of danger was the instinct of all creatures. Even the connate ferocious beasts were no exception. Dang! Making up his mind, Fuxi was about to charge towards the 4 ferocious beasts. But at this moment, the human Tao Emperor seal suddenly descended from the sky and landed on Fuxi's head, freezing him in place. Immediately, rays of dazzling human Tao light fell from the human Tao Emperor seal and surged into Fuxi's body, calming the restless origin in his body and healing his injuries. Without a doubt, this was Feng Zichen's move. At this critical moment, he sacrificed the human Tao Emperor's seal to save Fuxi. In fact, when the connate ferocious beasts besieged the human race, Feng Zichen had arrived, but he did not lend a hand. The reason was simple. He wanted to see what Fuxi's temperament was like. In the end, Fuxi was still a demon and not a pure human. Who knew what kind of position the human race had in his heart? Therefore, when Fuxi was fighting with the 6 connate ferocious beasts, Feng Zichen chose to stand by and watch. He quietly hid in the dark and waited for Fuxi's choice. After that, when he saw Fuxi decide to die together with the connate ferocious beasts in order to protect the human race, Feng Zichen confirmed his temperament and saved him. It was no wonder that Feng Zichen was so cautious. Because he was going to pass the human Tao Emperor's seal to Fuxi next. This action represented the transfer of the supreme power of the human race, and also represented that Feng Zichen approved of Fuxi and was determined to pass the position of the human race's leader to him. Without knowing Fuxi's true thoughts, how could Feng Zichen dare to pass the human Tao Emperor's seal to him? This matter concerned the rise and fall of the human race, so it was not too much to be cautious. Fortunately, Fuxi's actions received Feng Zichen's approval. He was willing to die for the human race. He was qualified to become the human race's leader. After healing Fuxi's injuries, a ray of divine light suddenly shot out from the human Tao Emperor's seal and entered Fuxi's glabella. It was recognizing a master. At this moment, Fuxi had become the master of the human Tao Emperor's seal. Of course, this so-called master of Fuxi was still a bit exaggerated. He only had the right to use the human Tao Emperor's seal, but not ownership. The ownership of the human Tao Emperor's seal was naturally still in Feng Zichen's hands. It made sense. No matter how generous he was, he couldn't just give away a treasure for free. He was just lending it to the human race's leader. If Feng Zichen needed it, he could take it back at any time. Besides, he hadn't left it behind without a purpose. Although the human Tao Emperor's seal's name contained the word human, its main power still came from the chaos bead, so it didn't really fit the name. Therefore, Feng Zichen planned to use the 3 sovereigns and 5 emperors to refine the treasure for him. With the 8 supreme human emperors and him, a total of 9 emperors would nourish the human Tao Emperor's seal. Thinking about it, it could allow him to complete his cultivation and completely become a human Tao supreme treasure. In this way the human emperor would benefit, and he would also benefit. It was the best of both worlds. This is the Khanate absolute treasure. Emperor Li's seal? What great power! Looking at the human Tao Emperor's seal in his hand, Fuxi had mixed feelings. He'd been Emperor Shi of the demon race for hundreds of millions of years. Although he'd enjoyed great glory, he'd never received a Khanate absolute treasure. But after his reincarnation, he'd only been the human emperor for tens of thousands of years, and a Khanate absolute treasure had come to recognize him as its master. This, Fuxi was speechless. But soon, his thoughts were pulled back to reality by a fierce beast roar. Seeing that Fuxi hadn't made a move yet, the 4 greater heaven fierce beasts grew impatient and took the initiative to attack. Dang! With a heavy heart, Fuxi took out the human Tao Emperor's seal and blasted it at the 4 beasts. With the Khanate absolute treasure in hand, Fuxi's strength increased exponentially. These 4 mid-saint Khanate beasts were no longer his match. Rumble! An extremely great power suddenly surged out from the human Tao Emperor's seal, twisting the laws and shaking up the universe. Chapter 547. That was Pangu's power. Although the human Tao Imperial seal was forged with the Chaos Bead as its core, its main material was Pangu's fingerbone. In other words, if the seal's power could be fully unleashed, it would possess the power of a single finger of Pangu's. One could imagine just how terrifying a single finger of Pangu's would be. Even if Fuxi couldn't fully awaken the seal with his current strength, he'd be able to kill the 4 Khanate beasts as long as he could activate a sliver of its power. In the past, when the seal had been in Feng Zichen's hands, he'd only been able to unleash the Chaos Bead's power. He hadn't been able to see the power of Pangu's fingerbone at all. That was because the Chaos Bead alone was enough for Feng Zichen. There was no need to use the power of Pangu's fingerbone at all. Besides, Feng Zichen didn't use the power of Pangu's fingerbone because he was planning to keep a trump card up his sleeve. Keeping a few trump cards up one's sleeve could often produce unexpected results. For example, when it came to scheming against others. But that wouldn't do now. In order to use the 3 sovereigns and 5 emperors to perfect the seal, Feng Zichen had to pass it on to them. However, the Chaos Bead's existence couldn't be discovered by them at all costs. Otherwise, it would be a very big problem for Feng Zichen. Therefore, the Chaos Bead's power in the seal couldn't be used by the 3 sovereigns and 5 emperors. Therefore, to ensure the seal's power, Feng Zichen decided to release Pangu's fingerbone's authority while concealing the Chaos Bead's power. In this way, the seal would undergo a tremendous transformation. It had gone from a supreme treasure that could suppress time and space to an unparalleled offensive treasure. Moreover, with this change, there was a reasonable explanation for the origin of the human Tao Imperial seal. Although the primordial wilderness was vast, there were only a limited number of Khanate peerless treasures. One couldn't have appeared out of nowhere. Without a logical origin, everyone would inevitably suspect that a Khanate peerless treasure had changed its appearance and become the human Tao Imperial seal. Suspicions came and went. Perhaps they would even suspect the Chaos Bead. There were only a few items that could be transformed into Khanate cardinal treasures. If someone was serious, they might not have thought of the Chaos Bead. There was no need to doubt the wisdom of the great mystical abilities of the great desolate world. Those who could live to this day and still stand tall were not simple people. They were very shrewd. However, if the origins of the human Tao Emperor's seal were proven to be a Khanate peerless treasure formed from Pangu's fingerbone, then everything would make sense. With how powerful Pangu was, there was a high chance that a fingerbone and some rare Khanate spirit items could be refined into a Khanate cardinal treasure. By then, the powerful beings of the prehistorical era would not have too many doubts, except for the fact that the humankind was so lucky to find Pangu's fingerbone. The matter of the Chaos Bead would also be completely covered up. This was because everyone's attention was on Pangu's fingerbone. Rumble! The world trembled inexplicably. The phantom of a purple finger gradually appeared behind the human Tao Imperial insignia. It was the shadow of Pangu's finger. Roar! 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 Pangu's aura surged over and actually awakened the fear rooted in the depths of the 4 Khanate beasts' bloodlines, forcing them to roar uneasily. Then, without looking back, they fled into the distance. They were afraid. They were truly afraid. As Khanate beasts formed from the remnants of the Chaos Demon God, they had inherited the Chaos Demon God's bloodline as well as the Demon God's fear of Pangu. The stronger they were, the more obvious their reaction would be. Therefore, after sensing Pangu's aura, they didn't even dare think of resisting. They fled into the distance with almost no regard for anything else. Hurrying to escape was the only thought in their minds at this moment. Unfortunately, it was all too late. Rumble! The phantom of Pangu's finger was like a pillar that supported the heavens as it pointed forward with a boom. Then, the four beasts that were fleeing in panic exploded at the same time, turning into a rain of blood that rained down on the untainted land. With just one strike, the four Khanate beasts comparable to Mid-Saint were killed by the human Tao Emperor's seal. The four ferocious beasts were clearly fleeing in four different directions. However, Pangu's finger had just lightly pointed forward, and the four Khanate beasts had died at the same time. Twisting time and folding space. The power of Pangu's finger was that powerful. Kill! After killing the four Khanate beasts, Fuxi activated the human Tao Emperor's seal again. Immediately, an extremely vast power descended and instantly swept through the space within a radius of hundreds of millions of miles. Bang, 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 bang. The vast and unparalleled power suddenly pressed down. The Khanate beasts that were besieging the human race's boundary were shattered into pieces before they could even scream. At this point, the crisis of the human race was immediately resolved. Of course, Fuxi didn't kill all the Khanate beasts. He still left behind hundreds of Khanate beasts at the Tai Jingxian level and tens of thousands of Khanate beasts at the Golden Immortal level. He intended to use this to train the human race. Greetings, Your Majesty. Thank you, Your Majesty, for saving my life. Putting away the human Tao Emperor's seal, Fuxi bowed solemnly to the front. There, a blurry figure had appeared out of nowhere. He was staring at the human race in front of him with an extremely complicated gaze. This person was Feng Zichen. Get up! Feng Zichen retracted his gaze and gently lifted Fuxi up with his right hand. The current Fuxi was no match for him. Thank you, Your Majesty. After standing up, Fuxi thanked him again. No matter how illustrious he was in his previous life, he was only a human in this life. When he saw Feng Zichen, the greatest emperor of the human race, there was no reason not to worship him. Moreover, the Tao he cultivated in this life was the Tao of God-fiends. Now that the ancestral master was in front of him, he naturally had to worship him. Moreover, just now, if Feng Zichen hadn't come to save him, he would have died at the hands of the Khanate beasts. In this way, he had even less reason not to worship Feng Zichen. As for why Fuxi, as a disciple of the Grand Pure One, cultivated the Tao of God-fiends passed down by Feng Zichen and not the Tao of Golden Core passed down by the Grand Pure One, that was related to the current situation of the human race. The current human race was mainly focused on the Tao of God-fiends. The rest were all minor Taos. If Fuxi cultivated the Tao of Golden Core passed down by the Grand Pure One, then it would be difficult for him to control the human race. It would be almost impossible. At the very least, the descendants of the God-fiends, who occupied 99% of the human race's forces, would not allow the descendants of the Golden Core lineage to occupy the position of the human race's patriarch. For the current human race, the Tao of God-fiends was the orthodox, and only the orthodox could inherit the throne. Therefore, what Fuxi cultivated was the Tao of God-fiends. You are now the human race's patriarch and the leader of the human race. There's no need to be so polite to me. Feng Zichen waved his hand and said, In front of Your Majesty, Fuxi doesn't dare to be rude. Even though Feng Zichen said so, Fuxi still said very politely, Your Majesty, you must return to the clan to take a look. As he said that, Fuxi looked at Feng Zichen with an expectant gaze. The current primordial world was too chaotic and dangerous. He had no confidence that he could protect the human race under such circumstances. Just like today, if not for Feng Zichen's timely action, the entire human race would have become a part of the primordial world's history. If Feng Zichen could return to the human race, with such an expert holding down the fort, the human race would have nothing to worry about. No! My era has passed. The current human race is your era. Feng Zichen shook his head and refused. If he returned to the human race at this time, then who would be the leader of the human race? If Fuxi was the leader, then wouldn't Feng Zichen be under Fuxi? Not to mention whether he would agree or not, even his clansmen wouldn't agree. If he was the leader, Then where would Fuxi be? What was the point of him being the emperor? Therefore, in order to pave the way for the 3 sovereigns and 5 emperors, even if Feng Zichen wanted to return to the human race, he couldn't return during this period of time. However, Feng Zichen was very gratified that Fuxi could say these words. If it wasn't for the sake of the human race, how could Fuxi say such words? One had to know that if Feng Zichen returned to the human race at this time, the one who would suffer the greatest loss would be Fuxi. From this, it could be seen that for the sake of the human race, Fuxi could really sacrifice his own interests. Just this point alone was worth Feng Zichen passing on the position of the human race's patriarch to him. Fuxi. From now on, the human race is yours. Smiling and nodding at Fuxi, Feng Zichen's figure slowly disappeared. He was very relieved to leave the human race to Fuxi. In the void, Feng Zichen wasn't in a hurry to leave. Instead, he spread out his divine consciousness and carefully explored the void. As expected, a moment later, Feng Zichen got the answer he wanted. He withdrew his divine consciousness and chased in a certain direction. There, a figure surrounded by a murderous aura was crazily shuttling through space, escaping to a mysterious place. Damn it! Wasn't the human emperor sealed by the Eastern Emperor Tai? Why would he suddenly appear here? The person cursed with an ugly expression as he fled crazily. He was the Shadow Demon. He was one of the 8 great elders of the demon sect and had the cultivation of the great perfection of the sage to be. He was once active in the last days of the ancient times and killed many elders of the 3 clans. Note, with the end of the Age of Liches, time moved forward. The age of the 3 clans became the ancient times, and the Age of Liches became the ancient times. At that time, his cultivation was only at the great perfection of Daluo Jingxian. Although he was a high-ranking member of the demon sect, he wasn't considered to be in charge. But now, countless years had passed. The shadow demon's cultivation had broken through one after another, and became a great perfection of the sage to be. He had also successfully become the decision-maker of the demon sect. This time, he was ordered by the demon ancestor, Rahu, to destroy the human race in an attempt to defy the destiny and destroy the plan of the heavenly Tao to revive the human race. The innate realm beasts that besieged the human race were forcibly summoned by the demon ancestor, Rahu, with the magic treasure given by the demon ancestor. Otherwise, how could it be so coincidental that so many innate realm beasts came to attack the human race? This was clearly a planned attack by the demon sect. Not only the human race, but even the innate realm alliance was being besieged by the demon sect elders and the innate realm beasts. The human race and the innate realm alliance were the only 2 major forces left in the primordial world. If they were all destroyed, then the primordial world would really become the territory of the innate realm beasts. The demon sect could also rely on this to prosper. Unfortunately, although the demon sect's plan was good, they had not appeared in the primordial world for a long time. The news seemed to be a little outdated, and they had missed out on Feng Zichen. Otherwise, this plan might really succeed. However, Feng Zichen appeared. Everything was different. In fact, whether it was the demon sect that ruled the primordial world or the celestial sect of wonders that ruled the primordial world, Feng Zichen did not care much. However, now that the demon sect wanted to destroy the human race, he had no choice but to care. The demon sect could not be left alive. Compared to the demon sect, at the very least, the celestial sect of wonders still hoped that the human race would prosper. In this way, how to choose? It was self-evident. The innate realm beasts were attacking the human race on a large scale. This was obviously not right. It would be strange if there was nothing fishy about it. Therefore, Feng Zichen released his spiritual will to investigate the surrounding void to see if there were any clues left behind by the mastermind. This investigation, sure enough, made him discover the problem. Somewhere in the void, there was a trace of extremely hidden demonic aura. Obviously, the attack of the innate realm beasts on the human race had something to do with the demon sect. Sensing this, Feng Zichen was furious, but he did not forget to deduce the demon sect's plan. Although the demon sect's plan was hidden, since he had already caught on to it, then all the concealment was meaningless. Not long after, Feng Zichen deduced the demon sect's general plan. Therefore, he first sent a voice transmission to Fuxi and asked him to go and rescue the innate alliance. Then, he followed the trace of the demonic aura and tracked down the mastermind behind this time. No matter what, the mastermind behind this plot against the human race had to die today. A dragon had a reverse scale, and it would be angry if it was touched. The human race was Feng Zichen's reverse scale. Anyone who dared to attack the human race would suffer his anger. Today he was to clearly tell the demon sect. If they dared to attack the human race, they would have to pay the corresponding price. The shadow demon was just the beginning. Fellow Taoist in front, please wait. It didn't take long for Feng Zichen to catch up with the shadow demon and shout at it. Not good. Hearing this, the shadow demon's expression changed drastically. He hurriedly used a secret technique and fled forward at all costs. It was not that he did not want to fight, but he could not beat him at all. After hearing Feng Zichen's voice, the shadow demon had just had the thought of stopping in his heart. In his sea of consciousness, the image of his death suddenly appeared, and the future also became blurry. At this time, the shadow demon knew that he was no match for the other party no matter what. If he stayed, he would definitely die. Therefore, the shadow demon directly used a secret technique. He did not hesitate to burn his origin and pay the price of a great loss of strength to increase his speed and escape toward the demon sect's base camp. As long as he escaped there, he would be safe. The demon sect's base camp could be said to be where most of the demon sect's strength was concentrated. Even the demon ancestor Rahu had left a gaze there. Unless Tao ancestor Hongjun personally made a move, no one would be able to break through there. Feng Zichen naturally could not. Chapter 548. Leave. Do you think you can leave? Looking at the figure of the other party fleeing in panic, Feng Zichen smiled faintly. He then took out the million sword illustration and shook it gently in front of him. In an instant, hundreds of millions of sword lights burst out from the void and swept towards the shadow demon who was frantically fleeing. Before he could turn around, the shadow demon knew that something was wrong. While he was shocked, he did not forget to use all his strength to stimulate the murderous aura around his body to form a layer of pitch-black protective shield outside his body, intending to block this attack. However, the huge gap made his efforts all useless. In just a breath, the defensive shield raised by the shadow demon was shattered into pieces by the sword light. Ah! Screams came out of the shadow demon's mouth. However, his body was cut off piece by the sudden attack of the sword light. The real separation of flesh and blood. It was like death by 1,000 cuts. The demonic path was bumpy. If he wanted to achieve something, he would have to experience some unimaginable torture. The pain that the shadow demon had experienced along the way was more severe than death by 1,000 cuts. Therefore, the pain of the physical body alone could not shake the shadow demon's heart. However, while the sword light was cutting his body, the sword intent contained in it could penetrate his body and reach his primordial spirit and even true spirit. The pain of the primordial spirit and true spirit being cut was countless times more intense than the pain of the physical body. After being tortured like this, even the shadow demon who had a strong mind could not help but let out a shrill scream. This was a torture for cultivators, the punishment of death by 1,000 cuts for cultivators. When the sword light disappeared, only a skeleton was left of the shadow demon's body. The flesh and blood on his body were all cut off by the sword light. Even his primordial spirit was completely wiped out by the sword intent, leaving only an incomparably brilliant innate indestructible true spirit. Feng Zichen's attack took half of the shadow demon's life. It would be difficult for him to recover to his peak state without hundreds of millions of years of bitter cultivation. Ha! Ha! Great Taoist priests? He's really strong. Taking a few breaths of cold air, the shadow demon looked at Feng Zichen, who was approaching him, and said with difficulty, "Too strong." The gap between the two of them was too great. They were both in the same realm as Daluo Jingxian, but he couldn't even take a single blow from him. After all, the Grand Taoist priests represented the invincibility of Daluo Jingxian. Although Shadow Demon was only at the great perfection of sage to be, he was at the limit of Daluo Jingxian. However, a limit was still a limit. He was still in Daluo Jingxian's realm. Of course, he was no match for him. Note: Feng Zichen has just broken through. At this time, no one knows that he is at the half-step primordial chaos realm. In addition, the other party had the support of the power of rank, so he was even less of a match for him. Looking at Feng Zichen, the shadow demon silently thought that it would be difficult for him to escape today. But who wouldn't want to live if they could? Therefore, Shadow Demon felt that he could give it another try. That is me. What's wrong, fellow Taoist Shadow Demon? Why aren't you running anymore? Walking to the front of Shadow Demon, Feng Zichen teased. There was no need to ask about the other party's identity. The moment he saw the Shadow Demon's true spirit, he naturally knew. When one's strength reached such a realm, his own traces had long been deeply engraved between heaven and earth. Facing the true spirit directly, any information he wanted could be easily divined, not to mention divining the identity of the other party. In the primordial chaos, one's face could be covered, his body could be covered, the secrets of heaven could be covered, the primordial spirit could be covered, and even the magic treasures could be covered. However, the innate undying true spirit could not be covered. This was the foundation of a living creature. It needed to be well hidden. After all, exposing the innate undying true spirit was equivalent to exposing everything. Grand Taoist priests, you must be joking. In front of you, there is no reason for me to escape. As Shadow Demon replied, he tried to restore his physical body and primordial spirit. However, he was soon disappointed. That was because he discovered that every time his flesh and blood were about to be reborn, a sword intent would emerge from the depths of his body and destroy the new flesh and blood. That was the sword intent that Feng Zichen had left in his body. The sword intent that Feng Zichen sent out had the characteristic of being indestructible. Even if the sword light disappeared, the sword intent could always stay on Shadow Demon's body, and continue to destroy his physical body until the moment his innate undying true spirit completely collapsed. Are you stalling for time? Are you waiting for someone to save you? Looking at Shadow Demon who was trying hard to restore his physical body, Feng Zichen asked curiously. Restoring his physical body was fake. The real thing was to secretly send out a distress signal. Using the restoration of his physical body to attract Feng Zichen's attention, and then taking the opportunity to send out a distress signal was the Shadow Demon's plan. Yes. Feng Zichen noticed it, but he didn't stop it. How could the Shadow Demon's little trick be hidden from him? But he really didn't care. He wasn't bragging. In the current demon sect, other than demon ancestor Rahu, no one was his match. Therefore, no matter who came next, they wouldn't be his match. They were just here to die. If the demon sect wanted to exterminate the human race, of course, they had to pay a sufficient price. How could a Shadow Demon be enough? Therefore, Feng Zichen wouldn't stop Shadow Demon's actions. If another one came, it would be just enough for a pair. Killing them together would be a warning to the demon sect. He believed that this warning would be enough to leave a deep impression on the demon sect. As for why Feng Zichen was so sure that it wasn't demon ancestor Rahu. Of course, it was because with demon ancestor Rahu's realm, there was no need to wait for him to ask for help if he wanted to save Shadow Demon. He should have made a move when Shadow Demon was in danger. However, demon ancestor Rahu hadn't made a move until now. That meant that a mere Shadow Demon wasn't worth his help. Feng Zichen, who had figured this out, was naturally not afraid. The great Taoist priests are really conceited. When he first heard Feng Zichen's words, Shadow Demon was really shocked and subconsciously wanted to quibble. However, in the next moment, he realized that the signal for help he sent out wasn't intercepted. At this moment, he was puzzled at first, but then he came to a sudden realization and somewhat understood Feng Zichen's thoughts. Then, he was angry. How confident must this person be to treat the entire demon sect as if they were nothing? Humiliating others wasn't like this. Shadow Demon was really about to go crazy with anger. The dignified demon sect, the only two supreme sects in the primordial world, was actually looked down upon like this. It was really. When the experts of the sect arrived, he would definitely make the person in front of him pay the price. Looking at Feng Zichen in front of him, Shadow Demon thought to himself. The huge anger made him temporarily forget his current dangerous situation. It was really funny. Next, the two of them looked at each other and fell into silence, quietly waiting for the arrival of the experts of the demon sect. Tisk, TSK, TSK. It seems that fellow Taoist Shadow Demon's identity in the demon sect isn't that great. The experts sent by the demon sect as reinforcements are actually just clones. How disappointing. After a while, Feng Zichen suddenly said with a disappointed face. The experts of the demon sect as reinforcements had arrived. They were at the half-step primordial chaos realm. Their background was great, but unfortunately, it was just a clone. This made Feng Zichen, who thought that he could catch a big fish, feel even more disappointed. What a waste of time. With that, Feng Zichen suddenly raised his right hand and punched forward. There, a cloud of black murderous aura appeared and was about to take human form. Rumble. Feng Zichen punched out. The void collapsed, and the universe shook. Unparalleled power burst out and directly blasted the figure that had not yet formed into the void. Fellow Taoist shadow demon, it's time for you to go. After punching out, Feng Zichen did not look at the result. He directly looked at the shadow demon and was about to send him on his way. Since he could not catch the big fish of the demon sect, there was no value in keeping this person alive. You want to kill me? It's not that easy. Seeing that the experts who came to support him were beaten back by Feng Zichen's punch, the shadow demon knew that there was no way out and did not have any hope. He directly used the strongest attack of the demon sect. Self-destruction. He was dead. He could not let Feng Zichen have it easy. Boom. A powerful aura rose from the shadow demon's body. His entire body began to expand. Violent power poured out of his body, causing the void to shake endlessly and distort the laws. You want to self-destruct? Have you asked me? Feng Zichen just smiled and did not care. Self-destruction when one was in a desperate situation had almost become a tradition of the demon sect. Knowing that he was dealing with a powerful expert of the demon sect, how could Feng Zichen not be prepared? Dang! With a thought, Feng Zichen launched a counterattack. Then, under the shadow demon's incredulous eyes, hundreds of millions of bright sword lights erupted from his body and destroyed his origin. Chi. The origin was destroyed. The shadow demon's swollen body was like a punctured balloon. It made a leaking sound and slowly shriveled. At this point, the process of the shadow demon's self-destruction was forcefully interrupted. How is this possible? Until now, the shadow demon still could not believe that his strongest attack was so easily neutralized by Feng Zichen. It was too easy. He was too naive. Even the sword intent could not be destroyed, let alone the sword light. Feng Zichen was a grandmaster of space-time. To him, distorting time and space was the simplest method. The sword light that was released earlier did not disappear at all. Instead, it was hidden in the future. He was waiting for the moment when the shadow demon self-destructed, so that he could launch a sudden attack. Haha, what a good method. I have no complaints about my loss. But don't be complacent. It won't be long before I return. After figuring out Feng Zichen's method, the shadow demon suddenly laughed a few times and was about to shatter his innate indestructible true spirit to end his own life. He was dead. He was going to die in his own hands. As long as the primordial world was not destroyed, Daluo Jingxian would not really die. Therefore he would not really die. What was there to be afraid of? Besides, with the methods of the demon sect, it would not be long before they could gather his true spirit and resurrect him. Since that was the case, he might as well be more straightforward and end it himself so that he would not be tortured again. Wait for him to be resurrected, and then settle the karma with Feng Zichen. There were countless experts in the demon sect. The shadow demon did not believe that no one could subdue Feng Zichen. Ridiculous! Who allowed you to die without my permission? Seeing that the shadow demon was about to end his own life, Feng Zichen's face darkened. Cultivators cherished their lives. End his own life? That was absolutely unbelievable. Especially the people of the demon sect. The secret techniques of the demon sect were extremely strange, and faking death was their specialty. If he did not kill the shadow demon with his own hands, who knew if he was really dead or if he had used a secret technique to fake his death to escape? As his thoughts raced, Feng Zichen directly used the supreme divine ability to reverse yin and yang, causing everything to be reversed. The shadow demon's action of ending his own life was interrupted on the spot. After that, Feng Zichen directly used the way of spacetime to seal the spacetime around the shadow demon, fixing him on the spot. For a quasi-saint cultivator, shattering the true spirit is not considered death. Fellow Taoist shadow demon, if you really want to die, then I have a divine ability that can satisfy your wish. As he walked towards the shadow demon, the aura on Feng Zichen's body suddenly changed. It became tyrannical, it became domineering, it became fierce. All kinds of characteristics that belonged to the chaos demon god emerged from his body one by one. Then, wisps of purple-black murderous aura spread out from his body, emitting a heart-palpitating fluctuation that made people tremble in fear. Du Tian Divine Murderous Aura. That was the Du Tian Divine Murderous Aura. The purple-black murderous aura that spread out from Feng Zichen's body was the Du Tian Divine Murderous Aura that accompanied Panga's body. At the same time, he was also in this world. The most powerful murderous aura. Boom! The Du Tian Divine Murderous Aura on Feng Zichen's body became denser and denser, making him look like a chaos demon god, incomparably imposing and incomparably tyrannical. Fellow Taoist shadow demon, it's time to go. Just like that, Feng Zichen walked in front of the shadow demon and pointed at him with his finger that was surrounded by the Du Tian Divine Murderous Aura. No! No! The shadow demon was really afraid. The way he looked at Feng Zichen was completely filled with fear. That was the Du Tian Divine Murderous Aura. If he was tainted with a trace of it, he would probably have no chance of returning in the future. Yes. Daluo Jingxian would not die. However, no one could guarantee that Daluo Jingxian would definitely return after he fell. Long sleep could also turn into eternal sleep. Eternal sleep, he would never wake up. What was the difference between that and complete death? Normally speaking, it was very difficult to make Daluo Jingxian or even a quasi-saint expert fall into eternal sleep. However, it did not mean that it was impossible. Coincidentally, the Du Tian Divine Murderous Aura had this ability. The murderous aura was like a poison attached to the bone. As long as it could not be eliminated, it would pester you forever and devour your intelligence until the primordial world was destroyed. During this process, the murderous aura would become stronger and stronger because of the devouring of the true spirit. In theory, any murderous aura had the ability to make Daluo Jingxian fall into eternal sleep. However, how could ordinary murderous aura threaten an expert of such a realm? He could probably destroy it with a thought. Only the highest level of murderous aura like the Du Tian Divine Murderous Aura could make Daluo Jingxian and even the quasi-saint helpless. They could only watch as they gradually walked towards destruction. The path of cultivation of the demonic sect was mainly to devour murderous aura. It was precisely because of this that the shadow demon understood the terror of the Du Tian Divine Murderous Aura better than ordinary people. The more he understood, the more terrified he was. Therefore, after seeing the Du Tian Divine Murderous Aura, the shadow demon was so terrified. Chapter 549. This was because he knew that once he was touched by it, everything would be over. Unfortunately, the shadow demon was fixed to the spot by Feng Zichen's space-time power. He could not move at all, let alone resist. He could only watch helplessly as despair approached him. Fellow Taoist, be on your way. Shaking his head with a smile, Feng Zichen ignored the shadow demon's resistance and forcefully imprinted the Du Tian Divine Baleful Qi into his true spirit. Sizzle. As soon as the Du Tian Divine Baleful Qi came into contact with the innate indestructible true spirit of the shadow demon, there was a sound of burning iron, and wisps of smoke spread out. That was the power produced when the two fought against each other and destroyed each other. Using the Du Tian Divine Baleful Qi to make the shadow demon fall into eternal sleep was easy to say, but it was still difficult to do. It was easier said than done. Theories were often just theories. In reality, it was more troublesome. That was right. If a great divine of the great perfection of sage to be could fall into eternal sleep so easily, the untainted land would have been in chaos. Feng Zichen was definitely not the first person to think of using the baleful qi to hurt people. However, there were very few people who could do it, which showed how difficult it was. After some resistance, the Du Tian Divine Baleful Qi gradually entangled with the shadow demon's innate indestructible true spirit. Of course, this was also thanks to Feng Zichen's continuous infusion of the Du Tian Divine Baleful Qi during this period. Wisps of baleful qi spread out and gradually eroded the shadow demon's true spirit. It also followed the mysterious connection and connected with the shadow demon's life imprint. The life imprint was the foundation of the true spirit and was also the basis for future resurrection. If even this was contaminated by the Du Tian Divine Baleful Qi, it meant that the shadow demon was completely finished. Unless there was an existence far beyond the primordial chaos realm, who helped him remove the Du Tian Divine Baleful Qi from his true spirit. Otherwise, the shadow demon would fall into eternal sleep. At the same time, the moment the life imprint was contaminated by the Du Tian Divine Baleful Qi, the shadow demon's intelligence was completely destroyed. Hee hee. How dare you attack the human race? Eternal sleep is the best punishment for you. Looking at the shadow demon's innate indestructible true spirit, Feng Zichen laughed in a low voice. At this moment, his eyes had completely turned purple-black. His aura also became more and more tyrannical. It was as if it would explode at any moment and destroy everything around it. Buzz. At this moment, the fragment of the good fortune jade disc in Feng Zichen's sea of consciousness suddenly trembled violently. Wisps of Taoist rhymes diffused from his body. They were mysterious and unfathomable, gradually calming his restless heart. Phew! Without the jade disc of good fortune, I would have been in real danger today. After being stimulated by the fragment of the good fortune jade disc, Feng Zichen finally came to his senses and sighed with fear. Then, he immediately dispersed the heavenly divine killing aura on his body. The Du Tian divine killing chi was too strong. It could be said that it was Feng Zichen's strongest attack. However, being too strong wasn't necessarily a good thing. The Du Tian divine killing chi was so strong that Feng Zichen, its master, didn't dare to use it easily. He was afraid that his mind would be affected by it if he wasn't careful. This was also the reason why Feng Zichen rarely used it since he cultivated this magic. This time, he felt that his cultivation had reached the half-step primordial chaos realm. He should be able to barely control the Du Tian divine killing chi without being affected by it. However, he didn't expect that as his cultivation improved, the power of the Du Tian divine killing chi also improved. It was even faster than his cultivation. As a result, when Feng Zichen used the Du Tian divine killing chi, his mind was directly affected and he almost fell into the abyss. Could it be that Dao ancestor Hung Jun gave him a fragment of the jade disc of good fortune to compensate him? If he wanted to get rid of the influence of the Du Tian divine killing chi today, he would have to pay a high price. Sigh. It seems that before I transform into a real chaos demon god, I'm afraid I can't use the Du Tian divine killing chi easily. After the enlightenment just now, Feng Zichen had already realized the condition to use the Du Tian divine killing chi without any scruples. That was to become a chaos demon god. Although the Du Tian divine killing chi was strong, its essence was still a kind of chaos chi. And the chaos chi. It was the standard of a chaos demon god. In other words, only a chaos demon god could use the chaos chi without any scruples. If he couldn't become a chaos demon god, even if Feng Zichen's realm was upgraded to the primordial chaos realm, he couldn't use the Du Tian divine killing chi. This was because the moment he became the primordial chaos Daluo Jingxian, the Du Tian divine killing chi automatically upgraded to the primordial chaos realm. It wasn't weaker than him. At that time, the situation he had to face wasn't much different from the situation he was facing now. But fortunately, it was extremely difficult for others to transform into a chaos demon god. However, it wasn't impossible for Feng Zichen. Now, he was already a chaos creature. One more step and he would become the legendary chaos demon god. And this further opportunity should be the moment he became the primordial chaos Daluo Jingxian. At that time, he would further evolve into the Pangu Taoist body. Perhaps he could take this opportunity to cultivate the most powerful chaos demon god body. It didn't matter even if he didn't succeed in the transformation. There were 12 levels of the primordial chaos, and each level was a transformation. As long as he cultivated step by step, there would be a day when he transformed into a chaos demon god. The bones of the shadow demon are not bad. If I add some innate spiritual items, I might be able to refine an upper-grade innate spiritual treasure. It's a pity that his innate origin can be preserved. With the help of his broken innate indestructible true spirit, I can directly refine an supreme-grade innate spiritual treasure. After dealing with his own matters, Feng Zichen couldn't help but look at the skeleton left behind by the shadow demon. The skeleton left behind by an expert in the great perfection of sage to be could be regarded as a treasure. Especially the demon sect, which focused on refining the body. Its hardness might not be weaker than an innate spiritual treasure. It was simply a natural material for refining treasures. And it was a material for refining innate spiritual treasures. It was mentioned earlier that besides being born naturally in the heavens and the earth, natural spirit treasures could also be refined with experts at the golden immortal realm and above as the main material. A complete Daluo Jingxian could be refined into several middle and lower grade innate spiritual treasures. A complete sage to be could be refined into several upper grade innate spiritual treasures or even supreme grade innate spiritual treasures. A complete primordial chaos Daluo Jinxian could be refined into a primordial ultimate treasure. When the shadow demon was alive, he was in the great perfection of sage to be. If he could preserve all of his innate origin and refine it slightly, he would be able to obtain an extraordinarily powerful supreme-grade innate spiritual treasure. Unfortunately, in order to prevent the shadow demon from self-destructing, his origin had been completely destroyed by Feng Zichen. But fortunately, his bones were left behind and didn't suffer much damage. In the future, if he could find a suitable innate spiritual treasure and refine it carefully, he would be able to obtain a decent upper-grade innate spiritual treasure. In this operation, just the skeleton of the shadow demon was enough to make up for it. After all, it represented a upper-grade innate spiritual treasure, which was very precious. Not to mention, Feng Zichen hadn't touched the corpse yet. An expert in the great perfection of sage to be would definitely have a lot of good things on him. This time, he might make a fortune. Thinking of this, Feng Zichen was about to touch the corpse. But at this moment, a black light suddenly shot out from the corpse of the shadow demon in front of him and flew quickly into the distance. Want to run? Stay! Feng Zichen frowned and reached out his hand to grab it subconsciously. As the void twisted, a black flag appeared in his hand. An acquired cardinal treasure? Looking at the black flag in his hand, Feng Zichen frowned. He thought that the treasure that escaped would at least be a upper-grade innate spiritual treasure. But he didn't expect. It wasn't even an innate spiritual treasure, it was just an acquired cardinal treasure. The huge difference made Feng Zichen a little disappointed. Although the power of an acquired cardinal treasure was not bad, how could it be compared with an innate spiritual treasure? This aura is... Suddenly, Feng Zichen sensed an extremely familiar aura from the black flag. That was the aura that belonged to the Chaos Demon God. Interesting. With a thought, Feng Zichen released his divine sense and began to refine the black flag. Anything that was related to the Chaos Fiend God was not simple. Perhaps there was some great fortuitous encounter hidden within this black flag. Rumble! A powerful divine sense was released from Feng Zichen's body and directly poured into the black flag, breaking the divine restrictions in the flag in the most violent way. At this time, Feng Zichen also knew the name of the flag. The Demon God flag was a supreme-grade acquired cardinal treasure with 49 acquired divine restrictions. Such a level of acquired cardinal treasure was rare in the entire untainted land. This also made Feng Zichen believe that the Demon God flag was not simple. Rumble! Inside the Demon God flag, the acquired divine restrictions were broken by Feng Zichen's powerful divine sense and forcibly branded his own mark. Almost there, almost there. In the blink of an eye, 40 acquired divine restrictions were broken by him. The secret hidden in the depths of the Demon God flag was about to be revealed in front of Feng Zichen. However, when he broke the 48th acquired divine restriction and was about to break the 49th acquired divine restriction, a change happened. Rumble! A supreme thought rose from the deepest part of the Demon God flag, behind the 49th divine restriction. A terrifying pressure spread out and directly blasted Feng Zichen's divine sense out of the Demon God flag. At the same time, the 48 acquired divine restrictions that he had just refined were taken back by the other party in an instant. Who is it? How dare you peep at my magic treasure? An extremely loud voice came from the Demon God flag and shattered Feng Zichen's scattered divine sense. At the same time, wisps of black gas were emitted from the Demon God flag and gradually formed a blurry figure. Demon Ancestor Rahu. Sensing this supreme aura, Feng Zichen immediately recognized the identity of the person. It was the former #1 expert in the untainted land, Demon Ancestor Rahu. He had once felt the aura of Demon Ancestor Rahu in the pagoda, so he would not be mistaken. Break for me! Almost without hesitation, Feng Zichen took out the Zichen sword and the million sword illustration. Combining the power of these two supreme-grade innate spiritual treasures, they blasted toward the Demon God flag. At this time, Demon Ancestor Rahu's figure had not completely solidified, so it was the best time to deal with him. When his figure was fully manifested, it would be hard to say who would win today. Junior, it's you again? Feng Zichen recognized Demon Ancestor Rahu, and Demon Ancestor Rahu recognized Feng Zichen. After all, in the untainted land, there were only a few people who could survive after stealing his magic treasure. How could he not be impressed? At this time, he naturally recognized Feng Zichen immediately. But obviously, Feng Zichen had no intention of catching up with him. Whoosh! An incomparably bright swordlight suddenly arrived and slashed the demon god flag. In the next moment, it directly shattered. No matter how extraordinary the demon god flag was, it was only a supreme-grade acquired supreme treasure. Faced with the full blow of 2 innate spiritual treasures, it could only shatter. Whoosh! As soon as the demon god flag shattered, the second sword light came one after another and directly turned the fragments of the demon god flag into powder. At this point, the demon god flag had completely disappeared. And the will of demon ancestor Rahu dissipated quickly after losing its object of sustenance. Junior! You've once again angered me. You're about to receive my wrath. You'd better cherish your final moments. The will of demon ancestor Rahu left behind these words before it disappeared. Feng Zichen naturally did not care about this. From his words, it could be inferred that demon ancestor Rahu was involved in some matters, so he could not personally descend to the untainted land. Otherwise, what demon ancestor Rahu left behind in the end would not be a threat, but a direct descent. Moreover, after taking away the pagoda, he and demon ancestor Rahu had formed an irreconcilable feud. Today's matter only deepened the feud between the two. However, it was already a feud to begin with. If it deepened, it would just be the same. However, if demon ancestor Rahu knew that the world devastator Taoist had also died in his hands, then, demon ancestor Rahu would probably not hesitate to descend here and kill him. Thinking of this, Feng Zichen could not help but feel his scalp go numb. He secretly made a decision in his heart. Before he cultivated to the primordial chaos Tao realm, he would not leak any information about the world devastator Taoist. Let's go! After putting away the shadow demon's corpse, Feng Zichen did not care about searching the corpse and directly left this place. No matter what, he could not stay here any longer. Who knew if demon ancestor Rahu had left any backup plans? If he continued to stay here, wouldn't he be giving the other party a chance to plot against him? Sure enough. Not long after Feng Zichen left, 4 half-step primordial chaos auras suddenly descended here. Demon God Flag. So the demon sect uses this Dharma treasure to control the Khanate ferocious beasts. In the void, Feng Zichen was thinking about the demon god flag. Although he did not refine the last acquired divine restriction, and touched the secrets in the depths of the demon god flag. However, he didn't refine those 48 acquired god seals for nothing. It more or less allowed him to know some of the functions of the demon god flag. Chapter 550. The demon god flag was a treasure used by the demon sect to control the Khanate ferocious beasts. If not for this treasure, the shadow demon would not be able to gather millions of Khanate ferocious beasts to besiege the human clan even though he was a perfected sage to be. It was no wonder that the demon ancestor Rahu was so nervous about this treasure. In order to prevent it from falling into the hands of others, he even left his will in the demon god flag. It was because this was the root of the demon sect's chaos. If this treasure fell into the hands of others, they could use it to command the Khanate ferocious beasts. By then, it would be much easier to quell the chaos of the Khanate ferocious beasts. With the demon god flag in hand, one could directly make the Khanate ferocious beasts kill each other. Even if the chaos could not be quelled, the strength of the Khanate ferocious beasts would be greatly reduced. In this way, the strength of the Khanate ferocious beasts would not be enough to threaten the untainted land. The chaos of the Khanate ferocious beasts would be resolved immediately. Without the help of the Khanate ferocious beasts, the demon sect alone would not be able to resist the counterattack of the major forces in the untainted land. The situation of the demon sect's rise and the Tao's decline could be reversed in an instant. It could be said that the demon god flag was enough to change the current situation in the untainted land. Therefore, the demon ancestor Rahu would never let it fall into the hands of others. But unfortunately, he underestimated Feng Zichen too much. If the demon god flag fell into the hands of others, they might be able to see its function, but it would be extremely difficult to imitate it. But Feng Zichen was different. He did not dare to say about other treasures, but if it was the demon god flag. Feng Zichen, who had been dealing with the chaos demonic god for a long time, was able to imitate most of the chaos demonic god's 48 divine restrictions, even if he couldn't completely imitate it. The demon god flag was made from the Tao of the chaos demon god. In terms of understanding of the chaos demon god, Feng Zichen could be ranked in the top 3 in the untainted land. Therefore, he had such great confidence in imitating the demon god flag. Countless mysterious runes appeared in Feng Zichen's eyes and constantly arranged in the void, gradually forming acquired divine prohibitions. If the demon ancestor Rahu was here, he would definitely recognize that these acquired divine prohibitions were the demon god flag divine prohibitions. Buzz buzz buzz. Divine prohibitions appeared one after another, gradually forming the shadow of a black flag in front of Feng Zichen. It was the demon god flag. Bang! Suddenly, when the 49th acquired divine restriction was about to take shape, the demon god flag in front of Feng Zichen shook for a while and then exploded, turning into countless talisman characters and vanishing. It seems that the last acquired divine restriction is the most important part of the demon god flag. Seeing this god Rahu's god Rahu, Rautha, when he was refining the fiend god flag, he had only mastered 48 acquired divine prohibitions. Rahu's god Ron S. Raham. However, before he could comprehend the most important last divine restriction, he was blasted out by Rahu's will. Hans. But in fact, he had miscalculated. As for the 49th acquired divine restriction, his deductions were completely useless. The first 48 divine prohibitions were still fine, but when Feng Zichen imprinted the 49th acquired divine prohibition on the demon god flag, the 49th acquired divine prohibition was completely destroyed. An accident happened. It was the scene just now. The demon god flag exploded. Obviously, this was the result of Feng Zichen deducing the acquired divine restriction not matching the original acquired divine restriction of the demon god flag. This caused the two sides to clash fiercely, causing the phantom of the demon god flag to explode. Alas! I have underestimated the people of the world. Back then, the demon ancestor was able to dominate an era and become the #1 person in the ancient era. Naturally, he had methods that far surpassed the people of the world. Although Feng Zichen was a little disappointed, he felt more at ease. If the magic treasure refined by the demon ancestor Rahu was so easily imitated by him, he would really suspect that there was a trap in it. After all, that was fiend ancestor Rahu. Back then, even Dao ancestor Hongjun was ashamed of his inferiority. The more difficult the imitation process was, the more it could guarantee the authenticity of the matter. But this little difficulty, it was not difficult for Feng Zichen. Let's go. With a thought, Feng Zichen broke through the space and rushed to the Khanate Alliance. If nothing went wrong, there should be another demon god flag there. When Feng Zichen rushed to the Khanate Alliance, Fuxi was there showing his might. He used the Khanate treasure human emperor seal to sweep in all directions and suppress a group of Khanate ferocious beasts. He believed that after this battle, the Khanate Alliance would no longer dare to be enemies with the human race. The day when the human race ruled the primordial world was not far away. After the chaos of the Khanate ferocious beasts was quelled, the human race would definitely become the #1 race in the primordial world. However, Feng Zichen did not appear to meet Fuxi. Now that Fuxi was in the limelight, if he suddenly appeared, it would be inevitable that he would be suspected of stealing Fuxi's limelight. It was better to continue hiding in the dark. Besides, Feng Zichen's purpose of coming here was not to meet Fuxi, but to snatch the other demon god flag. Quietly releasing his divine sense, Feng Zichen carefully probed the surrounding void, trying to find traces of the demon sect expert. Here! Suddenly, Feng Zichen found that something was wrong and looked at a certain void. There was a figure with a murderous aura lurking. Suppress! In an instant, the galaxy rotated on Feng Zichen's body, the universal light flowed, and the power of time rolled out, turning into a huge wheel of time and space, crushing toward the lurking figure. The supreme magic of the Tao of time and space. The wheel of time and space. It could suppress all space-time. Rumble! As the wheel of time and space rotated, space-time froze at this moment. Before the demon sect expert could react, he was suppressed by Feng Zichen. All space-time that belonged to him was suppressed. Come! Walking in front of the man, Feng Zichen gently hooked his hand, and the demon god flag automatically flew out of the man's body and hung in the air. After learning the lesson last time, Feng Zichen did not refine the demon god flag this time. If he attracted the will of the demon ancestor Rahu again, he would not gain anything this time. Rustle! A mysterious yellow light slowly rose from Feng Zichen's sea of consciousness and gradually formed a mysterious yellow treasure mirror behind his head. The Creation Jade Disc. This was the power of the Creation Jade Disc. The Creation Jade Disc was formed by the origin of the untainted land. It could be said to be the carrier of the heavenly way. All the principles of the untainted land were recorded on it, and it had unimaginable magical effects. One of its abilities. It was to reflect all the great ways. No matter what magic treasure it was, as long as it was placed in front of the Creation Jade Disc, all the principles contained in it would be reflected. Even the Chaos Supreme Treasure was no exception. Of course, this was when the Creation Jade Disc was perfected. The current hymn did not have this ability. However, the Creation Jade Disc was not at its peak, but the Demon God Flag was not a Chaos Supreme Treasure. No matter how extraordinary a mere acquired Supreme Treasure was, it could not escape the reflection of the Creation Jade Disc fragment. A mysterious yellow divine light shot out from the treasure mirror formed by the Creation Jade Disc fragment and brushed against the Demon God Flag. In the next moment, the materials used to refine the Demon God Flag, its structure, the method to refine it, the divine restrictions. Everything about the Demon God Flag was clearly displayed on the surface of the mirror. The aura of the Creation Jade Disc. I have sensed the aura of the Creation Jade Disc. Is it you, Hongjun? At this time, the voice of the demon ancestor Rahu suddenly came from the inside of the Demon God Flag. At the same time, a terrifying aura swept out and shattered the space-time wheel, and the surrounding space-time resumed its flow. Destroy! Seeing this, Feng Zichen directly slashed with his sword. Suddenly, a vast sword light poured out and evolved into billions of stars. It was extremely bright and shredded the Demon God Flag and the Demon Dao expert who had just recovered from the shock. After doing all this, Feng Zichen immediately retreated and fled into the depths of the void. Dang! Just as Feng Zichen left, a huge black handprint suddenly appeared in the void and slammed down on his original position. Rumble! The chi of destruction surged out and the void was annihilated. The laws were shattered, and the great Dao was disintegrated by the palm. Strong, absolutely strong. If this handprint hit Feng Zichen's body, even if he did not die, he would be severely injured and would not be able to recover. Good boy! Looking at the power of this handprint, the demon ancestor's realm is at least above the 9th level of chaotic essence, or even stronger. In the depths of the void, Feng Zichen carefully watched this scene, trying to infer the true strength of the demon ancestor Rahu. Unfortunately, there was too little information. From this handprint, he could only see that the strength of the demon ancestor Rahu was really very strong. It was far from what he could compare with. Even a saint might not be his opponent. However, Feng Zichen didn't come out empty-handed. At the very least, he was sure that the demon ancestor Rahu was really tied up by something, which prevented him from truly descending into the untainted land. Otherwise, the matter just now would not be solved with a single palm. After leaving this place, Feng Zichen took out the Good Fortune Jade Disc fragment, which clearly recorded everything about the Demon God Flag. The 49th innate divine restriction was also listed. Is this the Demon God Flag? Just wait. It won't be long before I give your demon sect a big gift. After getting everything he wanted, Feng Zichen turned and flew to the Nether Realm. As for why he wanted to go to the Nether Realm, that was because the best material to refine the Demon God Flag was the remains of the Chaos Demon God. Coincidentally, in the Nether Realm, there happened to be many Chaos Demon Gods dragging their remains out of the depths of the 9 underworlds. The demon ancestor Rahu used the innate spiritual objects stained with the blood of the Chaos Demon God as the main material to refine the main body of the Demon God Flag. Then, he set up a special acquired divine restriction to maximize the residual aura of the Demon God in the blood of the Demon God, so that when he raised the Demon God Flag, it was as if a real Demon God had been resurrected. In this way, with some unique mind-controlling techniques of the demon sect, he could control the innate ferocious beasts. The innate ferocious beasts originated from the Chaos Demon God and had a natural fear of him. When faced with the aura of the Chaos Demon God at its peak, of course, they would be afraid. They did not dare to resist at all. At this moment, the demon sect secretly guided them with a secret technique. Naturally, they could temporarily control these innate ferocious beasts, using the innate ferocious beasts' fear of the Chaos Demon God to control them. What a genius idea! However, now he was Feng Zichen's. Wasn't it just a Chaos Demon God? There were at least dozens of them in the Nether Realm. Any one of them could be refined into a Demon God Flag at the innate spiritual treasure level. That was the Chaos Demon God. No matter how weak it was, it could still be refined into an innate spiritual treasure. In this way, even if the demon sect still had the demon god flag, they could not stop the demon god flag in Feng Zichen's hand. The gap between the innate and the acquired was still very big. It was also a coincidence. If the Chaos Demon God had not broken the seal, Feng Zichen would not have been able to find the remains of the Chaos Demon God. This was fate. The demon sect was destined to be unable to prosper. Just as Feng Zichen's North Star incarnation was heading to the Nether Realm, his original body, Great Emperor Ziwei, was working with Heavenly Emperor Hao Tian to ambush beside the Tree of World. Fellow Taoist Hao Tian, who do you think the demon sect will send this time? Feng Zichen was bored, so he asked Hao Tian, who was beside him. I don't know. But one thing is certain. The cultivation of the person who will come will not be weak. Hao Tian shook his head and said with a serious expression. From the tone of these two people, it seemed that they were very sure that the experts of the demon sect would definitely come. Wasn't that so? The Tree of World was the pillar of heaven and earth. Once something happened to it, it would definitely endanger the entire heaven and earth, causing the situation of the primordial world to become even more chaotic. This was undoubtedly more beneficial to the demon sect. The more chaotic the primordial world was, the more benefits they would obtain. Of course, even without this, the Tree of World itself was enough to attract the experts of the demon sect. As mentioned earlier, the Tree of World was a natural innate cardinal treasure embryo. As long as it was cut down, its tree body could be refined into an innate cardinal treasure. Just this alone was enough for the evil cult elites to take the risk and try. Although the demon sect had the innate cardinal treasure god-slaying spear, it was too murderous like the 4 immortal-slaying swords and could not be used to suppress fate. This made the demon sect unusually need a normal innate cardinal treasure to suppress fate. Coincidentally, the Tree of World fulfilled this requirement. What was more coincidental was that because of the restraint of the Chaos Fiend God in the Great Chaos, the Heavenly Tao did not have the energy to take care of the primordial world. This gave the demon sect an opportunity to make a move. The last day's domain around the Tree of World could block Daluo Jingxian and Sage to be, but it definitely could not block the experts of the half-step primordial chaos level. Besides, the Tree of World was not protected by the last day's domain. It was only used to drive away flies. The true defense of the Tree of World was the attention of the Heavenly Tao. Originally, this was the most powerful defense. But who would have thought that the Heavenly Tao suddenly could not make a move? This was one of the few opportunities to make a move on the Tree of World. It was believed that the experts of the demon sect would definitely not let go of this opportunity. Even many of the 3,000 guests of the Purple Cloud Palace and the supreme experts of the primordial era were secretly spying on the Tree of World. The temptation of an innate cardinal treasure was enough to make many people take the risk. Chapter 551. It was because of this that Feng Zichen and Hao Tian would join forces to ambush here. No matter who it was, anyone who dared to cut down the Tree of World to refine magic treasures would definitely be killed by the two of them. After all, for rulers like Feng Zichen and Hao Tian, the more stable the primordial world was, the more comfortable their lives would be. Fellow Taoist Hao Tian, what do you think if the demon ancestor comes in person? Then what will the two of us do? Suddenly, Feng Zichen thought of a possibility and asked Hao Tian with a serious face. The demon ancestor Rahu was not someone that the two of them could deal with together. What else can we do? We can only fight to the death. If the two of us escape, I'm afraid the primordial world will not tolerate us. Hearing that, Hao Tian replied in annoyance. What's wrong with this person? Doesn't he know how to say something nice? He's always saying something discouraging. If the demon ancestor really came, not to mention whether they could escape from the hands of the demon ancestor, even if they really did escape, what could they do? Now that the saint was not here, the two of them were the biggest existences in the primordial world. If something big happened to the primordial world during this period, the two of them would have to bear all the responsibility. If the Tree of World was really cut down by the demon ancestor, causing the world to be out of balance, the boundless karma would definitely be on their heads. At that time, not to mention being one step closer to becoming the primordial chaos Daluo Jingxian, even if they could retain their current strength, it would be good enough. In order to prevent this from happening, therefore, no matter what price they had to pay, Feng Zichen and Hao Tian would risk their lives to protect the world. Even if they would die because of this. Dying in battle was better than escaping at the last minute. The advantage of the heavenly Tao was not so easy to take. Since they had accepted the karmic position of the supreme of heaven and earth and enjoyed the benefits it brought, they naturally had to bear the corresponding responsibilities. They wanted benefits but did not want to bear the responsibility. How could there be such a good thing in the world? Someone's coming. As the two of them spoke, there was a slight fluctuation in the void. Immediately, the two of them stopped talking at the same time. They held their breaths and restrained their auras to the limit, silently waiting for the person to appear. A sneak attack also required timing. Only by doing so could one achieve the greatest effect. A strand of pitch-black devil energy silently floated up into appearance from space, and it directly charged into the last day's domain and flashed swiftly towards the world tree. During this entire process, the last day's domain that was sufficient to cause a quasi-saint to fall into the state of decay actually didn't react at all, and it allowed that strand of black chi to swiftly pass by and arrive before the world tree in the blink of an eye. From this, it could be seen that this black chi was at least half-step primordial chaos. If the tree of world did not hold up the sky, it could directly whip an existence like the black gas to death with a branch. There was no need for Feng Zichen and Hao Tian to make a move. Unfortunately, the world tree's power, which was comparable to that of primordial chaos Daluo Jingxian, could not be unleashed at all. Supporting the heavens. It wasn't that easy. The pressure of the 33 heavens required the world tree to expend all of its strength to support it. In this way, he would have extra strength to fight against the enemy. This is the world tree? The legendary chaos spirit root. It's indeed powerful. When the black gas arrived beside the world tree, it suddenly stopped and turned into a blurry figure. This is the world tree? The legendary chaos spirit root. It's indeed powerful. After sensing it carefully, the black shadow seemed to sigh and say, primordial chaos. No matter what, it had nothing to do with being weak. When you fully mature, I'm afraid you'll be comparable to the legendary chaos treasure. Unfortunately, our devil sect can't wait any longer. We need you now. At this moment, even Feng Zichen and Hao Tian, who were far away from the black shadow, could clearly sense the greed in the black shadow's eyes. Who wouldn't be tempted by a connate treasure? He's about to make a move. Should we make a move? In the dark, Hao Tian said to Feng Zichen. Wait a little longer. Feng Zichen shook his head and said as he held back Hao Tian, who was about to make a move. The world tree was in existence in the primordial chaos realm. Even if it couldn't make a move, its essence was still there. Its trunk was extremely hard. Even if a half-step primordial chaos expert attacked it for hundreds of years, he might not be able to hurt it at all. Only a primordial chaos expert could hurt a primordial chaos expert. Therefore, in theory, the devil sect expert shouldn't be able to cut down the world tree. However, since he was here, he must be fully prepared and had the means to cut down the world tree. Since this means could cut down the world tree at the primordial chaos level, wouldn't it be easy to kill two of them who weren't in the primordial chaos realm? Therefore, before the other party's trump card was completely exposed, it was best for him and Hao Tian not to act rashly. Boom! Boom! The black shadow tried to attack the Tree of World twice. Not only did it not cause any damage, but it was also shaken off by the huge recoil. The black chi protecting its body dissipated, revealing its true appearance. It was a young man with a fierce face. His killing intent was so strong that it even formed an endless wave of blood in the surrounding void. His killing intent was even stronger than the blood sea Styx's. Demon God Ji-Du. The moment this person's true identity was exposed, Hao Tian's expression changed and he subconsciously called out this person's name. Fortunately, although he was shocked, he didn't lose his mind and reveal his whereabouts. Ji-Du. He's Demon God Ji-Du? The legendary right-hand man of the demon ancestor. Second only to the demon ancestor in the devil sect. Hearing the name Ji-Du, Feng Zichen was a little curious and quickly confirmed with Hao Tian beside him. He was born relatively late and hadn't experienced that era, so he didn't know much about the devil sect. What he had heard so far came from legends and the words of predecessors. However, Hao Tian was different. Although he kept a low profile, he was really an antique. He had lived for a long time and had been by the side of the Tao ancestor. He knew a lot about the secrets of the world. Therefore, just as Feng Zichen was pondering about the origin of the person opposite him, Hao Tian had already recognized him and told him about his origin. Yes, it's him. Hao Tian nodded and replied in a deep voice. Compared to the Nether River Patriarch, this was the real killing star. He could be said to be the #1 killing god born in the primordial world. Of course, from his name, it could be seen that the demon god Jidu was born as a star god. He was a connate demon god born on the Jidu star. This person was born in the early ancient times, after Wang Shu and before Di Jun. Because he was born with the connate killing Dao, his killing intent was too strong, so he wasn't liked by the connate gods. Therefore, Jidu entered the devil sect in a rage. After that, after countless years of bitter cultivation, Jidu finally became a supreme demon god. He roamed the primordial world, killed countless people, and made a name for himself. It made many connate gods tremble. After the war between Dao and devil, Jidu disappeared without a trace. They thought that this person had already died in this battle. However, they didn't expect that not only did he not die, but his cultivation level had also improved greatly. He had cultivated to the half-step primordial chaos realm and was only one step away from becoming a primordial chaos daluo. That's right. Jidu's realm. He was even stronger than Feng Zichen. He was infinitely close to the primordial chaos daluo Xianxia. No, to be precise, his realm had already entered the primordial chaos realm. It was just that his origin had not finished transforming, so his realm was still at the half-step primordial chaos realm. To break through the realm after daluo Xianxia, in addition to reaching the realm, one also needed enough origin to support it. The transformation of the primordial chaos realm required a huge amount of power. Tai had the help of the Sun Star, Di Jun had the help of the Heaven Realm, and Di Jiang had the help of the primordial world. Only then could they complete the transformation in a short time and cultivate to the primordial chaos daluo Xianxia realm. But what about the devil sect? They had nothing. As the defeated party in the war between Dao and devil, the devil sect no longer had a foothold in the primordial world and was driven out as a whole. The control of heaven and earth had completely fallen into the hands of the Xian sect. Therefore, there was really no shortcut on the path of cultivation of the devil sect. They needed to condense their origin bit by bit. Otherwise, with Jidu's strength, he would have cultivated to the primordial chaos daluo Xianxia realm long ago. He would not have faced such a situation. This was the price a loser should pay. The primordial chaos is the primordial chaos. It's far beyond what I can reach now. After sighing, Jidu no longer tried to attack the Tree of World. Instead, he flipped his hand and took out a blood-colored spear. In an instant, monstrous murderous aura spread out, illuminating the world in the color of blood. The void could not withstand the murderous aura and was silently destroyed. The great path and the laws also disappeared. Everything turned into a state of nothingness. God-killing spear. God-killing spear, a connate supreme treasure. The blood-colored spear in Jidu's hand. It was the #1 killing supreme treasure in the primordial world. God-killing spear, a connate supreme treasure. The reason why the God-killing spear was called the #1 killing supreme treasure in the primordial world was that it was different from other connate supreme treasures. It had no other ability other than killing. It gave up everything and only retained the purest killing power. This created the God-killing spear's reputation as the #1 killing spear. It was a legendary connate supreme treasure that could hurt a saint. Hiss! In the dark, Feng Zichen and Hao Tian saw Jidu take out the God-killing spear. They were so shocked that their faces changed drastically. They could not help but gasp. It was no joke to be poked by the God-killing spear. Even a saint would be injured, let alone them. Even if they did not die, they would be left with an indelible Dao injury. Good boy! The demon sect has really put in a lot of effort. They even took out the God-killing spear. Both of them were speechless. Ever since the immortal slaying 4 swords were taken away by the Dao ancestor, the God-killing spear had become the only supreme treasure of the demon sect. It was their foundation and would not be used easily. They did not expect the demon sect to take it out for the Tree of World. However, it made sense. With the demon sect's current situation, they could only use the connate supreme treasure, the God-killing spear, to cut down the Tree of World. After all, connate supreme treasures were on the same level as the primordial chaos. If not, the demon sect could only stare at the Tree of World helplessly. Slash! On the other side, after taking out the God-killing spear, Jidu used it as an axe. He poured all his magic power into it and slashed at the Tree of World. This is the time. Do it! Seeing this scene, both of them knew that it was time to strike. At this time, all of Jidu's energy was focused on the god-killing spear, so his body was full of flaws. Kill. In order to kill in one blow and to be safe, Feng Zichen directly used the Khanate Supreme Treasure, the star map, and blasted it at Jidu whoosh. The heavenly cycle star map trembled, and the stars in the sky appeared, forming a bright sea of stars that crashed toward Jidu with a loud rumble. Dang! On the other side, Hao Tian was not to be outdone. With a backhand, he pulled out a gorgeous long sword from the void. Boundless sword light shot out, shattering the endless void, and slashed at Jidu's back. So strong! Hao Tian really hit it well. Seeing this scene, not to mention Jidu, even Feng Zichen was shocked. Hao Tian was very strong, and he knew it. However, the appearance of that gorgeous long sword was somewhat out of Feng Zichen's expectations. The power of this sword was even stronger than Zichen's sword. Was already on par with the 10,000 sword painting. Without a doubt, this was a supreme-grade Khanate spirit treasure, and it was the top supreme-grade Khanate spirit treasure. Hao Tian really hit it well. If it weren't for dealing with Jidu today, he probably wouldn't have exposed his trump card. But thinking about it, Hao Tian didn't just hide this sword. Thinking about it, as the Tao child of the Tao ancestor, how could he not have any wealth? Not only did he have it, but it was also very rich. Even if he didn't, the Tao ancestor would also buy him a very rich net worth. Don't be naive. Did you really think that the treasures that the Tao ancestor gave to the Haotian Jade Pool in the Purple Cloud Palace were all that he had? Of course not. Although those treasures were precious, they were obviously not worthy of the wealth that a celestial emperor should have. How could he rule the world empty-handed? In secret, Tao ancestor Hong Jun had given these two people many benefits. From this sword, one could tell. Humph! You want to plot against me with just the two of you? How ridiculous! I've been guarding against you for a long time. Just as the two people's attacks were about to land on Jidu, he suddenly laughed. Then, he directly turned around, using the spear as an axe, waved the god-killing spear, and slashed fiercely in the direction of the two people. Whoosh! A dazzling blood-red light bloomed from the god-killing spear, and it collided fiercely with the two supernatural powers that came blasting over. Rumble! In the next moment, the sea of stars collapsed, the sword light dissipated, and the void no longer existed. A terrifying power swept out, shaking both sides back. Hao Tian, Ziwei, two emperors? The two of you are really something. You don't care about your reputation and joined forces to ambush me here. If I didn't bring the god-killing spear today, I'm afraid I would have fallen into your trap. Looking at the two of them, Jidu said with a cold smile. To be honest, after recognizing the identity of these two people, he was really shocked. He was not surprised that he was stopped by others. This was all within his expectations. But he did not expect that the dignified sovereigns of heaven and earth, the top great supernatural powers of the untainted land, the celestial emperor and great emperor Ziwei, would actually do such a thing as a sneak attack. A sneak attack? Was this what a celestial emperor should do? Did they still want their dignity? Chapter 552. Despicable. To think that the two of you are the supreme beings of heaven and earth. How could you be so shameless as to join forces to launch a sneak attack? How despicable. Jidu could not help but feel a lingering fear. If he did not have the god-slaying spear, he would have died in the hands of these two juniors. The two of them were truly shameless. Regarding this, Feng Zichen and Hao Tian were unmoved. Nonsense, as an emperor, the most important thing was to be thick-skinned. It would be strange if Jidu's words could move the two of them and make them feel ashamed. Senior is a figure of the same generation as the Tao ancestor. As juniors, we know that we are no match for him. So we joined forces to fight against Senior. Why not? Hao Tian asked in surprise. Humph! Sharp-tongued. With a cold snort, Jidu disdained to argue with the two of them. He then said with killing intent, "Since the two of you are here, don't leave. I'll kill you first, then cut down the world tree." If he killed Feng Zichen and Hao Tian, the demon sect might be able to enter the heavenly court and regain control of the primordial world. With this thought in mind,
Jidu clenched the god-slaying spear in his hand and was about to stab the two of them.
You want to kill us?
I'm afraid you alone are not enough.
Demon god Jidu, you created chaos in the primordial world. Today, it's your turn to face the tribulation. 9 heavens 10 earths demon slaying array, rise. It was also at this moment that Feng Zichen and Hao Tian activated the demon slaying array that they had set up beforehand. As the name suggested, the 9 heavens 10 earths demon slaying array was a Khanate array that was specially used to deal with the demon sect. This demon slaying array. It was a formation specially created by the Dao ancestor after he merged the Dao and was worried that the demon sect would rise again. It was extremely powerful and specialized in countering the demon sect. Since its birth, it had never been shown to anyone. It was only because Hao Tian had been by Dao ancestor Hongjuan's side all year round that he could learn some of the ingenuity of this formation from him. That's right, this formation was provided by Hao Tian. Feng Zichen had a Khanate array, but there was no array that was specially used to deal with the demon sect other than the celestial sect. Rumble. Following the activation of the formation, the heavens and the earth changed. Layers of heavenly palaces appeared and continents were born. They formed the layout of the 9 heavens and 10 earths, trapping Jidu within. Dong, dong, dong. It was as if the thunder god was beating a drum. In the 9 heavens, demon-slaying divine lightning appeared, boundless and boundless, locking onto the demon god Jidu from afar. At the same time, demon slayer divine flames gushed out from the ground and swept towards demon god Jidu in an endless stream. This was Feng Zichen and Hao Tian's killer move. The previous attack was just a smokescreen. Both of them could imagine that the demon sect would definitely attack the world tree. The demon sect was not a fool. How could they not think of someone coming to stop them? Jidu's previous reaction had already proved this point. If he hadn't been on guard in advance, Jidu wouldn't have had time to react in the face of their sneak attack. Even if he didn't die, he would be seriously injured. Therefore, Feng Zichen and Hao Tian made 2 preparations. On the one hand, they set up the demon-slaying formation in advance. On the other hand, they hid in the void to prepare for a sneak attack.
One of them was in the open while the other was in the dark.
Small tricks. In the demon-slaying formation, Jidu looked at the demon-slaying divine lightning and the surging demon-slaying divine flames with disdain. With a sweep of the god-slaying spear in his hand, a sharp killing intent was released and swept in all directions. In the next moment, the lightning in the sky was shattered and the divine flames were extinguished. Only the sharp killing intent remained, wantonly destroying everything in the 9 heavens 10 earths.
Haha! With the god-slaying spear, even a saint would dare to fight with me.
How can a mere Xiantian grand formation do anything to me? Junior, let's see how I'll break your formation.
With the god-slaying spear in hand, Jidu's strength could be said to have increased greatly. Even if the real primordial chaos Daluo Jingxian came, if he didn't have a Khanate cardinal treasure in his hand, he wouldn't dare to say that he could really defeat him. Therefore, Jidu could be said to be at the peak of his strength since he was born. However, the 9 heavens 10 earths demon-slaying formation was, after all, a formation created by a Taoist ancestor after Dao unification. It could be said to be mysterious and unfathomable. How could it be so easy to deal with? After the Taoist ancestor's Dao unification, although his realm was still primordial chaos, his strength was not. That was the realm of heavenly Dao, even stronger than ordinary chaos demon gods. A formation created in such a state was absolutely terrifying. Boom! 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 The god-slaying spear in Jidu's hand was constantly waving. First it pierced through the 9 heavens, then pierced through the 10 earths. Soon, the space created by the demon-slaying formation was smashed into pieces. At this rate, it wouldn't be long before the demon-slaying formation was broken by Jidu now. At the moment when the 9 heavens 10 earths was completely destroyed, Feng Zichen and Hao Tian stepped forward together, stepped into the demon-slaying formation, and activated the formation with all their strength. Buzz buzz buzz. Under their full strength, the heavens and the earth returned to chaos, and a strange chaotic space was formed. It was boundless, ancient, and vast. Rumble. The chaotic chi surged, setting off huge waves, and slammed toward demon god Jidu, trying to assimilate me with the chaos? What a joke! In the chaos, Jidu raised the god-slaying spear and stabbed it downward. Violent killing intent swept out, forming blood-red ripples,
and shattered the chaotic qi. Looking around, there was blood-red killing intent everywhere in the chaos. They were tightly entangled with the chaotic qi to prevent it from condensing. Kill. Seeing this, Feng Zichen and Hao Tian's expressions didn't change, and they continued to activate the formation. Rumble. Suddenly, there was the sound of thunder in the depths of the chaos. The atmosphere became oppressive at this moment, as if a great terror was about to descend. Rumble. Rumble. The sound of thunder from the depths of the chaos became more rapid and vast, and heaven and earth became more and more oppressive. That is, in the demon-slaying formation, Jidu suddenly felt a chill and couldn't help but look up. Right at this moment, a wisp of purple light appeared from within the chaos. That was thunder, purple thunder. Heavenly thunder of purple heaven. Seeing this, Jidu's expression changed drastically, and there was panic on his face for the first time. The heavenly thunder of purple heaven, also known as the thunder of heavenly punishment, was the supreme superpower of Tao ancestor Hongjun, and it was also the strongest heavenly thunder of the untainted land. Note, Du Tian heavenly thunder is the top thunder technique in the chaos. Its power was enough to severely injure a sage. Back then, many demon sect experts had died under the heavenly thunder of purple heaven, and Jidu had a deep memory of it. Now that he saw the heavenly thunder of purple heaven again, the fear of the past surfaced in his heart again. How could Jidu not be afraid? Summoning the heavenly thunder of purple heaven was the strongest technique of the 9 heavens 10 earths demon-slaying formation. It was also because of this that Feng Zichen and Hao Tian had the confidence to kill Jidu Rumble. The heavenly thunder of purple heaven came quickly. When Jidu first saw it, there was only a purple light in the chaos, but when he came back to his senses, the heavenly thunder of purple heaven was ready. The entire chaos. It had been dyed purple by the heavenly thunder of purple heaven. Rumble. A bright purple light flashed, and the heavenly thunder of purple heaven, which was dozens of feet in size, suddenly fell and struck at Jidu. Break for me. Looking at the heavenly thunder of purple heaven, Jidu subconsciously clenched the god-killing spear in his hand and stabbed at it with all his strength. Bang! Blood and purple intertwined, and killing intent and thunder competed. Wisps of purple thunder followed the god-killing spear's body and attacked Jidu's body. Sizzle. The violent thunder struck, and the black clothes on Jidu's body only lasted for a moment before they were torn into countless pieces. Without the protection of the black clothes, the heavenly thunder of purple heaven directly poured into Jidu's body, crazily destroying everything in his body, including his primordial spirit and true spirit. In the blink of an eye, Jidu's body became a piece of charcoal. However, it was a pity that Jidu looked miserable from the outside. But in fact, he did not suffer any serious injuries. The heavenly thunder of purple heaven was powerful, but the god-killing spear was not weak either. After being weakened by the god-killing spear, the heavenly thunder of purple heaven that struck Jidu did not have much power left. Other than making his appearance look miserable, it did not leave any fatal injuries. Again. Seeing that the heavenly thunder of purple heaven was effective, Feng Zichen and Hao Tian activated the array again, and evolved another heavenly thunder of purple heaven, and continued to strike Jidu. Boom. 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 Bolts of heavenly thunder of purple heaven struck down, and even with the god-killing spear in front of him, Jidu gradually could not hold on. It was not easy to activate a primordial treasure. Every time he blocked a heavenly thunder of purple heaven, the Dharma power in Jidu's body was rapidly decreasing. When his Dharma power was exhausted, it would be the time of his death. In terms of Dharma power, Feng Zichen and Hao Tian could not compare to Jidu, but as the supremes of heaven and earth, they could receive the blessings of heaven and earth, and their Dharma power was endless, far from what Jidu could compare to. Competing in consumption. The two of them could drag Jidu to death. 2 emperors. This move is a little too much. Just when Jidu's Dharma power was about to be exhausted, an incomparably deep voice suddenly came from the void. And at the same time as this voice, an extremely mysterious divine power appeared. Swish! As if eternal night had descended, heaven and earth silently fell into darkness, and everything fell into silence. At this moment, heaven and earth lost its voice, and everything was silent. Crack! Crack! In the situation where Feng Zichen and Hao Tian did not react at all, a strange power attacked, and the 9 heavens and 10 earths demon slayer formation suddenly disintegrated, and Jidu took the opportunity to escape. Oh no! Seeing this, Feng Zichen was shocked, and hurriedly took out the primordial treasure Zhouxing map.
Swish, swish, swish. Stars appeared one after another, and bits of starlight scattered, piercing through the darkness and bringing light. Mahakala Demon God. At the moment when the night disappeared, Feng Zichen heard Haotian's exclamation. Mahakala Demon God. Obviously, this was the identity of the person who came. Following Haotian's line of sight, Feng Zichen saw a black shadow beside Ji Du. Yes, that's right. This person was a black shadow. He did not transform into a primordial Dao body like other creatures of the primordial world. Instead, he walked in the primordial world with his original body like a primordial beast. This was an exception. It also meant that the Dao he cultivated was not the primordial world's Dao, and it had nothing to do with Pengu. However, the primordial world creatures' bodies must be inextricably linked to Pengu, and they could not exceed the limits of the 81 Dao forms. This person was not among them, which meant that he was either the reincarnation of the Chaos Demon God, or the successor of the Chaos Demon God. His background was quite impressive. Mahakala Demon Sect greets the two Imperial Emperors. The deep voice came from the black shadow, and it clearly entered the ears of Feng Zichen and Haotian. Ziwei, Haotian, greets the senior. Feng Zichen and Haotian bowed respectfully. This was a true senior who had attained the Dao in the early primordial era. He had once participated in the calamity of the primordial world and was one of the oldest primordial god fiends. Legend had it that a long time ago, when the primordial world had just been created, Zhouxing had not yet been born, and the world was dark. At that time, there was only night and no day in the primordial world. Over time, in the endless night, a great god was born. He was the embodiment of the night, the Mahakala Demon God. One could imagine how noble such a background was. If the appearance of the day had not been, with the identity of the Mahakala Demon God, he could be said to be the embodiment of the sky. He was also a natural celestial emperor. Unfortunately, with the appearance of the sun, half of his luck evaporated, so he had no chance of becoming the celestial emperor. However, this did not affect his strength. As one of the oldest primordial god fiends in the primordial world, the power of the Mahakala Demon God was beyond doubt. He was the earliest Daluo Jingxian of the primordial world, a pioneer on the path of the great Dao. The current cultivation realm of the primordial world was perfected by the Mahakala Demon God and other ancient primordial god fiends. It was not an exaggeration to say that they were Dao ancestors. For the sake of full attendance, I'll change it later. I hope everyone can understand. One could imagine how noble such a background was. If the appearance of the day had not been, with the identity of the Mahakala Demon God, he could be said to be the embodiment of the sky. He was also a natural celestial emperor. Unfortunately, with the appearance of the sun, half of his luck evaporated, so he had no chance of becoming the celestial emperor. However, this did not affect his strength. As one of the oldest primordial god fiends in the primordial world, the power of the Mahakala Demon God was beyond doubt. He was the earliest Daluo Jingxian of the primordial world, a pioneer on the path of the great Dao. One could imagine how noble such a background was. If the appearance of the day had not been, with the identity of the Mahakala Demon God, he could be said to be the embodiment of the sky. He was also a natural celestial emperor. Unfortunately, with the appearance of the sun, half of his luck evaporated, so he had no chance of becoming the celestial emperor. However, this did not affect his strength. As one of the oldest primordial god fiends in the primordial world, the power of the Mahakala Demon God was beyond doubt. He was the earliest Daluo Jingxian of the primordial world, a pioneer on the path of the great Dao. One could imagine how noble such a background was. If the appearance of the day had not been, with the identity of the Mahakala Demon God, he could be said to be the embodiment of the sky. He was also a natural celestial emperor. Unfortunately, with the appearance of the sun, half of his luck evaporated, so he had no chance of becoming the celestial emperor. However, this did not affect his strength. As one of the oldest primordial god fiends in the primordial world. Chapter 553. In terms of cultivation and status, the Mahakala Demon God and the demon ancestor Rahu were on the same level. There was not much difference. Moreover, due to their doctrines, the demon sect was not favored by heaven and earth. Although they had a chance to prosper, they could not last as long as the Xian sect.
The demon sect was extremely arrogant and had the momentum to sweep through the primordial world. However, once the chaos calmed down and the saints returned from outer space, the situation that the demon sect had created with great difficulty would be destroyed in an instant. As the top expert of the primordial world, the Mahakala demon god could not understand this. Even so, he still chose to join the demon sect. There must be a problem. Perhaps the Mahakala demon god and the demon ancestor Rahu had reached some unspeakable agreement in secret. Otherwise, even if the Mahakala demon god wanted to join a force, he should join the Xian sect, which had a promising future. Instead of joining the demon sect, which had the responsibility of destroying the primordial world and could never truly prosper. Wasn't this equivalent to being a eunuch for 12 years and joining the national army for 49 years? Emperors, since I'm here, I won't return empty-handed. So, you should leave, lest you lose your lives in vain. Looking at Feng Zichen and Hao Tian, the Mahakala demon god said very calmly. His words showed that he did not care about the two of them at all. It was as if he was not facing the two supreme beings of heaven and earth, but some random cat or dog. His tone was shockingly arrogant. Even a saint would not dare to say that. Boasting. Arrogant. Hearing that, Feng Zichen and Hao Tian's expressions changed and they were furious. Not to mention their identities, just in terms of cultivation, one was a half-step primordial chaos, and the other was a perfected sage-to-be. They could be said to be the peak of the primordial world. With such cultivation, they could be considered top experts at any time. When had they ever been looked down upon like that? No, this was not looking down on them. This was simply a deliberate humiliation. As long as the Mahakala demon god took the two of them seriously, he would not say such contemptuous words. Why? You don't believe me? Looking at their expressions, the Mahakala heavenly demon god smiled and did not explain. Black chi surged around his body and condensed into a black palm, reaching toward the two of them. He wanted to prove with his actions that what he said was true. Feng Zichen and Hao Tian were nothing in front of him. Rumble! The Mahakala heavenly demonic god pressed down with his palm, and boundless darkness attacked. Light was extinguished, and the world seemed to have fallen into eternal night at this moment. Everything fell silent. In the darkness, Feng Zichen and Hao Tian encountered the greatest danger. In their perception, the great Tao, the laws, and the spiritual energy had all disappeared. Only the endless night remained. Loneliness, despair, and other negative emotions surged into their hearts, shaking their Taoist hearts. Even the great path that they had painstakingly cultivated was showing signs of decline at this moment. This was the tribulation of Tao decline. It was a calamity even more terrifying than the 5 decay of the celestial being. Once the great Tao declined, its strength would definitely decline as well. When the great Tao decayed, its life would come to an end, and there was no way to escape. Primordial Chaos Daluo Jingxian. The Mahakala heavenly demon god has attained Tao. With just one strike, the only one who could make the two of them unable to resist was the Primordial Chaos Daluo Jingxian. And it was not an ordinary Primordial Chaos Daluo Jingxian. He must be an expert among them. At this moment, Feng Zichen and Hao Tian suddenly realized that the other party's strength had already transcended heaven and earth and reached the level of Tao. It was far from what they could contend with. In the dark night, the power of despair grew stronger and stronger. It was about to invade Feng Zichen and Hao Tian's Taoist hearts and take them down with it, completely falling into eternal sleep. Senior is indeed a senior. His strength is indeed far beyond ours. But if you think you can kill the two of us with this, you are underestimating us too much. Seeing that the situation was getting more and more dangerous, Feng Zichen and Hao Tian did not hold back and burst out together. Wisps of sacred Tao light bloomed from their bodies, emitting extremely shocking fluctuations. It pushed the two of them to the level of Primordial Chaos Daluo Jingxian in one fell swoop. The Tao light was sacred and extremely bright. Like the sun, it tore through the long night, drove away the darkness, and brought light to heaven and earth again. At the same time, wherever the light passed, all despair, loneliness, and other negative emotions quickly melted like snow exposed to the sun. Is this the power of rank? The Mahakala heavenly demon god stared at the two people who had escaped and said with some surprise. The most powerful thing about Feng Zichen and Hao Tian was not their cultivation realm, nor was it their magic treasures, but their rank. The position of Celestial Emperor and the position of Great Emperor Ziwei were the top ranks in the untainted land. What they possessed was no less than the power of primordial chaos Daluo Jingxian. The supremes of heaven and earth had their own majesty. The weak. How could they control heaven and earth and rule the untainted land?
Therefore, no matter who it was, even if it was a mortal with no cultivation, from the moment they became the supremes of heaven and earth, they would automatically obtain power that was comparable to primordial chaos Daluo Jingxian.
Feng Zichen and Hao Tian dared to face the demon sect, and it was not that they did not have the capital to be arrogant. It's getting more and more interesting. The two half-step primordial chaos suddenly became two primordial chaos Daluo Jingxian. Instead of being afraid, the Mahakala heavenly demon god became even more excited. Previously, he did not take the two of them seriously at all. The current situation was worthy of him being a little more serious. F***CK, F***CK, a plant. This Mahakala heavenly demon god is too good at pretending. Seeing the Mahakala heavenly demon god's performance, Feng Zichen was really speechless. He had been in the untainted land for so long, but he had never seen such an arrogant person. Even the demon ancestor Rahu was not as good as him. These were two primordial chaos Daluo Jingxian. They were the strongest existences known now. Can't you take this seriously? Why are you acting so disdainful? What are you trying to do? Are you trying to set off your strength? It was not that Feng Zichen looked down on the Mahakala heavenly demon god, but how long had it been since the primordial era? No matter how strong he was, there had to be a limit. At most, he was at the 7th or 8th level of primordial chaos. As for existences above the 9th level of primordial chaos, only the Dao ancestor, the demon ancestor, and Yang Mei were known. Dao ancestor Hongjuan's Dao integration was equivalent to the heavenly Dao assisting his cultivation. Naturally, his cultivation progress was extremely fast. The demon ancestor Rahu inherited the legacy of the chaos demon god, so his cultivation progress was naturally not slow. There was no need to mention great immortal Yang Mei. Her realm in her previous life was unfathomable, far exceeding the primordial chaos Dao realm. Increasing her cultivation level was as simple as eating and drinking to her. Her realm was said to be the highest in the untainted land, even above the Dao ancestor and the demon ancestor. These three connate great gods had such conditions to cultivate above the 9th level of primordial chaos. But what did the Mahakala heavenly demon god have? He did not have anything. Feng Zichen dared to say that unless he was the reincarnation of the chaos demon god, his realm would definitely not exceed the 3rd level of primordial chaos. The conditions of the primordial era were there. Without the support of the origin of heaven and earth, his cultivation progress was imaginable. One had to know that even a saint, without the support of the providence of heaven and earth, would find it extremely difficult to improve. He, the Mahakala heavenly demon god, was bare-handed. Could he be stronger than a saint who was supported by the heavenly Tao? As for the Mahakala being the reincarnation of the chaos demon god, that would be a joke. The reincarnation of the chaos demon god was actually in such dire straits that he had to be a fighter for the demon ancestor Rahu. If Feng Zichen were him, he would probably be too ashamed to face anyone. Hee. A primordial chaos expert. Then it will be interesting to kill him. With a low laugh, the Mahakala heavenly demon god attacked. He waved his hands continuously, and laws spread out, distorting heaven and earth. The night came silently. Feng Zichen and Hao Tian seemed to fall into the abyss as their bodies kept falling. How did he do it? He hurriedly took out the Zhouxing painting to stabilize his sinking body. Feng Zichen's expression was a little heavy. This divine ability was too strange. He really did not notice it at all beforehand, and he fell for it just like that. It was also fortunate that the Mahakala heavenly demon god's strength was limited and was not much stronger than the two of them. Otherwise, just this search alone would be enough to destroy the two of them. Break! On the other side, Hao Tian held a long sword in his hand and slashed straight ahead, wanting to break through the night. Rumble! As the sword light crisscrossed, the 33 heavens appeared one after another, deducing the power of the world and shattering all the darkness. Unfortunately, although Hao Tian's sword was powerful, it did not have the slightest effect. Outside the night, it was still night. It was boundless and had no end. Boom! Seeing that Hao Tian's attack was ineffective, Feng Zichen suddenly shook the Zhouxing painting. In an instant, hundreds of millions of stars appeared, forming a vast galaxy that hung above the sky. The galaxy was vast and boundless. It rushed forward, intending to cover the entire sky and find the end of the night. However, although the galaxy was vast, compared to the night sky, the stars could only be used as decorations. How could they be compared to it? Feng Zichen's probing this time was destined to be fruitless. Break! His heart sank slightly. Feng Zichen immediately made a decision and directly detonated the galaxy. Suddenly, hundreds of millions of stars exploded together, and endless brilliance was born. It was more dazzling than the sun, completely illuminating this side of the world. When he saw the true face of this side of the world, Feng Zichen's eyes could not help but shrink, and his heart sank. As far as the eye could see, there was a vast and boundless black curtain above their heads. All the darkness came from there. Just now, they were sucked into this black curtain, which was why they were unable to escape. This is a connate cardinal treasure? How could the Mahakala demon god have a connate cardinal treasure? Looking at the black curtain, Hao Tian's face was filled with shock. If he remembered correctly, according to the information he received from the Purple Cloud Palace, the Mahakala demon god should not have a connate cardinal treasure. His natal magic treasure should be a supreme-grade connate spirit treasure, the Black Sky Divine Banner. But what was with the connate cardinal treasure in front of him? Where did the Mahakala demon god get it? Moreover, when did connate cardinal treasures become so worthless that they could be encountered so easily? Didn't the Tao ancestor say that? In the primordial world, there were only a few connate cardinal treasures. They could not be obtained without a supreme opportunity. But what was the situation now? The 4 people present, except for him, could be said to have a connate cardinal treasure. Could it be that the Tao ancestor was lying to him? Or could it be that he had come to a fake primordial world? At this moment, Hao Tian could not help but fall into self-doubt. Speaking of which, he was unlucky. There were not many connate cardinal treasures outside the celestial sect of wonders. But today, he had encountered almost all of them. Phew, fellow Taoist Hao Tian. I'm afraid the 2 of us will be in danger today. If you still have any trump cards, hurry up and use them. If you're too late, you won't have the chance to use them. Staring at the black curtain, Feng Zichen took a deep breath and said to Hao Tian with an unprecedentedly solemn expression. Hao Tian could not recognize the origin of this item. But he recognized it. It was because he recognized it that he had a bad feeling. This magic treasure was called the Curtain of Night. It was not a connate cardinal treasure, but a supreme-grade chaos spirit treasure. Of course, the supreme-grade chaos spirit treasure referred to the previous Curtain of Night. The current Curtain of Night had been severely injured in the heaven-splitting tribulation. Its level was barely maintained in the ranks of chaos spirit treasure. But even so, its power was extremely terrifying. It was comparable to a middle-grade connate cardinal treasure. As for why Feng Zichen could recognize the origin of the Curtain of Night, that was because he had seen this magic treasure before. Chaos Spirit Treasure Curtain of Night. It was the eternal spiritual treasure of the Dark Night Demon God. And Feng Zichen, who had the brand of the Chaos Demon God, was extremely familiar with the Chaos Demon God. Naturally, he could recognize the magic treasure in their hands. Moreover, in Panga's left eye, Feng Zichen had experienced Panga's life. He had even witnessed with his own eyes how the Curtain of Night was shattered by Panga's axe. How could he not recognize its origin? Although the current Curtain of Night had fallen a lot because of the injury, its origin had not changed. As a result, Feng Zichen recognized its origin at a glance. Since the treasure in front of him was the Curtain of Night, then the identity of the Mahakala demon god was self-evident. The Chaos Demon God Dark Night. Although the Mahakala demon god was powerful, he could not control the Chaos Spirit treasure before the Dark Night demon god died. Because he did not have the ability to erase the mark left by the Dark Night demon god in the Curtain of Night. Besides, even without the mark of the Dark Night demon god, the Curtain of Night could not recognize the Mahakala demon god as its master. If the Curtain of Night was shattered, just like the Chaos Bead, it would turn into countless innate spiritual treasures. The great dark heavenly demon god would be able to repair it with ease. However, the Curtain of Night only fell in level and was not completely shattered. The Mahakala demon god had no reason to reclaim the Curtain of Night.
Because the curtain of night looked down on him. The chaos spirit treasure also had its own pride. How could he, who had followed the Dark Knight demon god for so many years, take a fancy to the Mahakala demon god who was weak? Moreover, the Dark Knight demon god was not dead. How could the curtain of night submit to others? Moreover, looking at the way the Mahakala demon god activated the curtain of night, it did not look like it had just obtained the curtain of night. All of these meant that the Mahakala demon god in front of him was one of the 3,000 chaos demon gods, the Dark Knight demon god. Only he could make the chaos spirit treasure curtain of night submit so willingly. Chapter 554. However, judging from the current strength of the Mahakala demon god, he should not be the reincarnation of the Dark Knight demon god, but had been possessed by the Dark Knight demon god. If not, his cultivation level would not be so low after such a long time had passed since the beginning of ancient times. Thinking back to the recent time when the Chaos Demon God took the opportunity of the Heavenly Tao's negligence and was preparing to possess the great mediums of the primordial world, it was not hard to imagine that the Mahakala Demon God had been unlucky. It was because he had fused with a part of the true spirit of the Dark Knight Demon God that the strength of the Mahakala Demon God had soared in a short period of time. He had broken through the layers of shackles and cultivated to the 4th level of primordial chaos. Otherwise, no matter how heaven-defying the opportunity of the Mahakala demon god was, it was impossible for his realm to reach such a level. He could even fight 1 against 2 and still have the upper hand. The Dark Knight demon god had possessed the Mahakala demon god and completed the plan of rebirth. He had even replaced the identity of the Mahakala demon god in the primordial world and walked in the world with his face. And the chaos spirit treasure darkness, after sensing its master's aura, would return to his side without the summoning of the Dark Knight demon god. In this way, the Dark Knight demon god had completely returned. It was a pity that the Mahakala demon god had cultivated for hundreds of millions of years for nothing. It was really sad and lamentable. What happened next was much simpler. As the spokesperson of the Chaos demon god in the primordial world, of course it was also possible that Rahu himself was the reincarnation of the Chaos demon god. In short, there was a great connection between the demon god and the Chaos demon god. According to this, the demon sect and the Chaos demon god were also inextricably linked. Therefore, when the demon god Rahu learned that the Dark Knight demon god had returned, he asked him to help the demon sect deal with the celestial sect of wonders. How could the Dark Knight demon god stand by and do nothing? In this way it led to the current situation. Sigh. Although he had expected this, Xianxia still sighed when he saw it with his own eyes. What kind of expert was the Mahakala demon god? He had once dominated an era and had the bearing of a celestial emperor. However, he was gone just like that, and his body was taken over by someone else. It really made people sigh. In fact, Xianxia had a rough idea of how the Mahakala demon god was taken over by the darkness demon god. Others might be able to withstand the possession of a chaos fiend celestial or even kill it. However, against the Dark Knight demonic god, the great dark heavens demon god could be said to be completely helpless. It could even be said that the great dark sky demon god was the vessel of the Dark Knight demon god. Speaking of which, the Mahakala fiend celestial had asked for it. It was formed from the remains of the Dark Knight demon god, so it was naturally countered by the Dark Knight demon god. He should hurry up and cultivate the primordial heavenly Tao to erase the traces left on him by the Dark Knight demon god. Instead, he recklessly cultivated the Tao of demon god and deepened the demon god brand in his body so that he could transform into a chaos demon god. Wasn't that just courting death? If the Dark Knight demon god had really fallen, there was nothing wrong with the Mahakala demon god's actions. This was a grand Tao. As long as he cultivated it step by step, he might be able to become the new Dark Knight demon god in the end and reach the highest realm. However, the problem was that the Dark Knight demon god was not dead. Cultivate his Tao, imitate his body, trace his origin. The Mahakala demon god had put everything on the Dark Knight demon god. He was simply making himself into a replica of the Dark Knight demon god. In this way, after the Dark Knight demon god broke the seal, it would be easy for him to take over the Mahakala demon god. In fact, the Dark Knight demon god did not even need to take the initiative to attack. He only needed to appear in front of the Mahakala demon god. Under the attraction of the same Tao, the Mahakala demon god would uncontrollably let go of everything to help the Dark Knight demon god and replace him. Those who imitate me live, those who imitate me die. That was how it was. Speaking of which, the Mahakala demon god had gotten what he wanted. Didn't he want to become the Dark Knight demon god? Now, he had completely integrated into the Dark Knight Great Tao and became a part of the Dark Knight demon god. He had achieved his dream. When the ancestor of the Great Tao was still alive, he cultivated his Tao and tried to replace his existence. Such behavior was destined to become someone else's wedding dress from the beginning. It was so stupid that it could not be any more stupid. He could be said to be the best at courting death in the Eldritch world. One had to know that Feng Zichen was worried about this. That was why he did not dare to completely turn himself into Pangu. His physical body, primordial spirit, and even true spirit were all transforming into Pangus. However, his foundation, the Tao that he cultivated, was completely different from Pangu's Tao. This difference created the essential difference between Feng Zichen and Pangu. Therefore, he did not need to worry that he would be inspired by Pangu and automatically become his incarnation. He was him. Feng Zichen of the human race. The one-of-a-kind Feng Zichen. Even if he added the word Pangu before his name, it only meant that he was from Pangu's lineage, not that he was a part of Pangu. If he wanted to reach the supreme realm and reach the end of the Great Tao, he had to walk his own Tao. Following the Tao of others would save him effort, but he would never reach the peak of the Great Tao. Not bad. But if you want to escape from my hands with this, it's far from enough. Seeing the two of them tear apart the long night, the Dark Knight demon god was a little surprised, but that was all. Obviously, he did not think that Feng Zichen and Hao Tian could escape from his hands if they worked together. You guys. Have you seen the real Eternal Night? A slightly profound voice came from the Dark Knight demon god's mouth. Then, without waiting for Feng Zichen and Hao Tian to react, he flipped his hand, and the endless night rolled, giving birth to endless darkness that swept toward the two of them. The Eternal Night was the precursor of the immeasurable calamity. In the Eternal Night, all Taos were destroyed, and the laws did not exist. Everything would fall into despair, and living beings would disappear. It was obvious how terrifying it was. Danger. Extreme danger. Seeing the darkness surging toward them, Feng Zichen and Hao Tian felt a chill all over their bodies, and they could not help but feel a great fear in their hearts. The darkness in front of them was enough to threaten their lives. We can't let it get close. At this moment, Feng Zichen and Hao Tian made a decision almost at the same time. They could not let this attack fall. The stars in the sky, the light of the galaxy, the god of Pangu, all of you, strengthen me. Break. Terrified, Feng Zichen directly used his strongest method to attract the power of the boundless starry sky to strengthen himself. In an instant, Feng Zichen's aura skyrocketed again, and he broke through to the third level of the primordial chaos realm. At the same time, in the distant boundless starry sky, in a mysterious and unpredictable space, the god of Pangu's shadow, who was swallowing the chaos chi from the chaos, suddenly opened his eyes and disappeared. In a trance, Feng Zichen felt an extremely vast and mighty power suddenly descend and wrap around him. All kinds of mysterious trajectories flashed before his eyes, and the power of heaven and earth strengthened his body at this moment, raising his cultivation by another level, allowing him to enter the fourth level of the primordial chaos realm. This realm was just on par with the Dark Knight demon god. Unfortunately, this was not the boundless starry sky, and Zhouxing was far from recovering to his peak, so the support he could give to Feng Zichen was extremely limited. Otherwise, with the power of the stars in the sky, Feng Zichen's realm would at least be raised to the seventh level of the primordial chaos realm. In addition to the support of the god of Pangu, it was enough to let him erupt with power that was not inferior to the ninth level of the primordial chaos realm. If that was really the case, Feng Zichen did not need to be afraid of the Dark Knight demon god, as he could suppress him alone. Zhouxing painting go! At this moment, as Feng Zichen's strength increased to the fourth level of the primordial chaos realm, and he activated the Zhouxing painting, the power that erupted was far from what it was before. Rumble! The star chart shook, and billions of stars appeared. Each star represented a world, and they were connected to each other, forming a vast and magnificent supreme realm. Painting sky splitting. As the stars rotated, billions of worlds shook together, and endless power poured out, forming a vast torrent that crushed everything and collided with the surging darkness. Bang! Terrifying power spread. The universe shook, and the universe roared. The great Tao was in chaos, and the divine chains of order were broken inch by inch. It was as if heaven and earth did not exist at this moment. When the fluctuations stopped, the bright starlight and the dark night were tightly entangled with each other. No one could do anything to the other, and they were in a stalemate. The night could not descend. The galaxy could not rush up. Feng Zichen and the Dark Night Demon God were in a stalemate. At this moment, Hao Tian also erupted. The power of heaven and earth, add to my body. As soon as he finished speaking, the 33 heavens shook together, and an incomparably vast power descended from the sky and poured into Hao Tian's body, directly raising his realm to the third level of the primordial chaos realm. And this was not the end. After the heaven realm, the entire Eldritch world also shook. Next, in the Eldritch world, countless famous mountains, great rivers, and blessed lands, regardless of whether they had an owner or not, all of them had to separate and pour into Hao Tian's body. Even the Nether realm, which had long been sealed, separated a trace of origin and added to Hao Tian's body the moment Hao Tian's voice fell. With a command, heaven and earth obeyed. This was the Celestial Emperor, the supreme ruler of the Eldritch world. He was more powerful than a saint or even a Tao ancestor. At this moment, Hao Tian's cultivation directly entered the 5th level of the primordial chaos realm, surpassing Feng Zichen and the Dark Night Demon God in one fell swoop. This was also the reason why Hao Tian had just become the Celestial Emperor and had not established his prestige in the Eldritch world, so his reputation was not prominent. Otherwise, with the support of the power of heaven and earth, Hao Tian's realm could be even stronger. As for how strong it was hard to say. In theory, the upper limit of the Eldritch world was there, and the upper limit of the Celestial Emperor's strength was there. The Celestial Emperor represented the strongest in the Eldritch world. How much strength could be exerted completely depended on the standard of the Celestial Emperor. If he was the true Lord of Heaven and Earth in the Eldritch world, needless to say, he would definitely be the strongest in the Eldritch world. If he was just a puppet and his power was completely taken over, then the strength he could exert would be at the level of an ordinary primordial chaos realm. No matter what, he was still a Celestial Emperor. Even if he was only a Celestial Emperor in name, he was still a Celestial Emperor. No matter how weak he was, he could not be that weak. He was a peak that hundreds of millions of living beings could not reach. Therefore, in the future, how much of the Heavenly Emperor's strength Hao Tian could unleash would all depend on his means. Suppress! Hao Tian formed a seal with both hands, and the shadow of the 33 heavens appeared, turning into the shadow of a 33 heavens pagoda in mid-air. Endless creation chi hung down, spinning and suppressing toward the night sky. This was the primordial pagoda of Mi Luo Heaven, also known as the Trayastrimsa Creation Pagoda. It was a primordial treasure that was born in the 33 heavens in the distant future. Now, Hao Tian, as the Celestial Emperor, used a supreme divine ability to summon a projection of himself in the future to suppress the enemy. There were 33 layers of his body, and each layer corresponded to a heavens. And in each layer of the heavens, a primordial spirit treasure was born to be used as a suppressor. This supreme treasure represented the luck of the heavenly realm, and it contained endless good fortune. A primordial treasure contained 33 primordial spirit treasures. Once it was born, it would be the top primordial treasure, second only to the 3 great heaven-opening treasures. This was a primordial treasure that belonged to the Celestial Emperor. Thinking about it, it made sense. As the ruler of the primordial world, how could the Celestial Emperor not have a primordial treasure in his hands? Moreover, with the richness of the heaven realm's origin, it should have given birth to a primordial treasure. Rumble! The primordial pagoda of Mi Luo Heaven pressed down, as if the 33 heavens were pressing down. The creation chi was vast and mighty, shattering the eternal night. Buzz buzz buzz. The eternal night shattered, and the Chaos Spirit Treasure Knight suffered a backlash. After trembling for a while, it suddenly shrank, turning into a black flag and returning to the hands of the Dark Night Demon God. Hiss! The power of this pagoda is so strong. Seeing this scene, Feng Zichen could not help but frown. Just the power displayed by this illusory figure was almost comparable to the heavenly cycle star map. If its main body was born, how powerful would it be? But shock was shock. Feng Zichen was actually not envious. Because he knew that this powerful primordial treasure, the primordial pagoda of Mi Luo Heaven, had no possibility of being born. The future would always be the future. No one would allow the birth of this primordial treasure. In short, if I can't get it, I won't let you get it either. As far as Feng Zichen knew,
When Di Jun ruled the Heaven Realm, this pagoda was already in the process of being born. However, at that time, it was not called the primordial pagoda of Mi Luo Heaven, but the 9-layered Great Heaven Pagoda. However, it was a pity that he had not been born until Emperor Jun had fallen. After that, the 9 heavens shattered, and the 9-layered Great Heaven Pagoda died before it was born. After the birth of the 33 heavens, its shattered origin followed the heavens and recondensed, giving birth to a new primordial treasure, the primordial pagoda of Mi Luo Heaven. However, even Hao Tian would not be able to see the birth of this primordial treasure. Because, in order to take revenge on Hao Tian, after the God investiture tribulation ended, the 3 pure ones moved the greater 1,000 worlds that they had opened in the chaos beyond the heavens, the grand pure land of Dachi Heaven, the jade pure land of Qingwei Heaven, and the pure land of Yuyu Heaven to the Heaven Realm to limit Hao Tian's power. As a result, the Heaven Realm changed again, from the 33 heavens to the 36 heavens. Chapter 555. Under this influence, the Mi Luo Heaven Primordial Pagoda changed again, from 33 levels to 36 levels. The addition of 3 levels would undoubtedly greatly extend the incubation time of this treasure. As time passed, the future would most likely be filled with endless variables. The future was full of uncertainty and there were too many variables. Coupled with the deliberate calculations of those with ulterior motives, the Mi Luo Heaven Primordial Pagoda would probably never have the chance to be born. Dark Night Sky Canopy. The Dark Night Demon God was not annoyed by the failure of his attack. With a flip of his hand, he struck out another great skill. Swish! Boundless night attacked, and the world suddenly fell into darkness. The aura of the Great Tao spread out, producing countless strange shadows that were hidden in the darkness, pouncing towards Feng Zichen and Hao Tian. Kill! Feng Zichen pulled the Zhouxing painting, and a terrifying power erupted, shaking the void. The galaxy rotated violently, and majestic god-fiend phantoms walked out, facing the strange figures that pounced over. On the other side, Hao Tian was not to be outdone. Change! The Dao seal in Hao Tian's hand changed, drawing all kinds of mysterious trajectories. The heavenly realm shook, and a vast power descended from the sky, transforming into the phantoms of 33 great emperors in front of Hao Tian. Rumble! At the same time, the projection of the Mi Luo Heaven Primordial Pagoda disintegrated, turning into the phantoms of 33 connate spirit treasures that fell into the hands of the 33 great emperors. These were the great emperors of the 33 heavens. They were the innate god-fiends that the 33 heavens' origins would give birth to in the future, corresponding to the 33 heavens. They were born heavenly lords. Just like how Zhouxing would give birth to innate star gods, the 33 heavens would also give birth to innate great emperors. However, just like the Mi Luo Heaven Primordial Pagoda, in the primordial world, no one liked their birth. Therefore, these 33 innate great emperors were most likely unable to be born. However, this did not prevent Hao Tian from borrowing their power from the future to fight against the enemy. Now, whether it was the Mi Luo Heaven Primordial Pagoda or the Masters of the 33 Heavens, they did not exist. But in the future they were indeed real. However, due to various reasons, this real future was infinitely delayed. No one denied their existence, but they would always live in a future that was impossible to become a reality. With the two of them working together, their strength had completely suppressed the Dark Night Demon God. It was the same even if he was a Chaos Demon God. After all, apart from the indestructible True Spirit, the Dark Night Demon God's body and primordial spirit were all taken from the Mahakala Demon God. He was a true innate god. His Chaos Fiend God body, which had dominated the Great Chaos, had long been broken to the point where it couldn't be any more broken. It should be known that half of Chaos Demon God's strength came from his almost invincible body. Without the Demon God's physical body, Dark Night Demon God, who only had the innate Fiend God body, was unable to unleash the invincible battle strength that belonged to Chaos Demon Gods of the same realm. At most, this made him stronger than cultivators of the same realm. However, the demonic god of darkness had to face a cultivator of the same realm as him, as well as a cultivator of a higher realm. Under such circumstances, he still wanted to win against the two of them. If the Dark Night Demon God really did it, then Feng Zichen and Hao Tian might as well find a place to slit their throats and hang themselves, so as not to embarrass themselves. Rumble! Countless divine powers collided, erupting with unprecedented light, piercing through the night and also breaking the dark night sky, killing all the strange figures that pounced over. Not only that, after this force broke the dark night demon god's divine power, it still didn't stop and rushed towards him. Not good. Pfft. The violent force surged over. Although the dark night demon god used all his strength to resist, he was still no match. He was forcefully blasted into the depths of the void and vomited a mouthful of blood. He was injured. This was the first time the dark night demon god was injured since the outbreak of the war. At the same time, this also meant that the dark night demon god was not invincible. Facing Feng Zichen and Hao Tian, whose strength had skyrocketed, the dark night demon god was no longer invincible and was faintly at a disadvantage. And the injury of the dark night demon god had undoubtedly greatly increased the morale of Feng Zichen and Hao Tian. Then, the two of them looked at each other and joined forces to attack without hesitation. Take advantage of his illness and kill him. It wasn't easy to gain the upper hand, so of course, they had to take advantage of the advantage and work hard to expand the results of the battle. Kill! Zhouxing diagram wrapped the endless starry sky and fiercely blasted into the depths of the void. The Myluotian primordial pagoda was surrounded by the Qi of creation, carrying the power of heaven and earth, and also suppressed into the depths of the void. With this attack, Feng Zichen and Hao Tian both tried to severely injure the dark night demon god. At the same time, the void beside the Tree of World quietly cracked open a hole. A purple eye peeked out from it and stared indifferently at the Kidu demon god who was at a loss. This was the Eye of Heavenly Tribulation. Feng Zichen's Thunder Lock incarnation made a move. However, his target was not the dark night demon god in the depths of the void, but the demon god Jidu who was holding the god-slaying spear and hiding at the side. From the appearance of the dark night demon god to the fierce battle between him and Feng Zichen and Hao Tian, the demon god Jidu was completely dumbfounded. Because he couldn't interfere at all. Both sides were too strong, far beyond what he could contend against. In fact, as the battle became more and more intense, if not for the protection of the god-slaying spear, he wouldn't even have the right to get close to the battlefield. He was afraid that even the aftermath of the attack would be able to kill him. As his strength was too weak, the demon god Jidu didn't dare to make any moves at all, in case he attracted the attention of the other party and got rid of himself. Therefore, he could only hug the god-slaying spear and carefully hide at the side, trying to reduce his presence as much as possible. However, as the battlefield shifted to the depths of the void, the demon god Jidu felt that his opportunity had come. There was no one around, so wasn't it the best opportunity for him to attack the Tree of World? As long as he cut down the Tree of World, their goal would be achieved, and there would be no reason for this battle to continue. After all, they didn't come here to fight, but to cut down the Tree of World, so as to worsen the chaos in the primordial world, and also to take away a main material for refining a connate cardinal treasure. He did as he thought. The demon god Jidu was just about to raise the god-slaying spear and attack the Tree of World. But suddenly, he felt a chill all over his body. His intuition told him that an incomparably dangerous feeling came from all directions, enveloping him layer by layer, completely sealing off his escape route. Not good. Greatly alarmed, the demon god Jidu hurriedly looked up following the feeling in his heart. He saw in the void a purple eye, shining with a dazzling brilliance. He shot a dazzling divine light at him. Light of tribulation. Luai's laid down the tribulation on behalf of the heavens, wielded the power of punishment in the primordial world, could be said to be the embodiment of the heavenly Tao. His will represented the will of the heavens. Therefore, the tribulation that he sent down was the tribulation sent down by the heavenly Tao. As the saying goes, once the heavenly punishment is sent out, all living beings will be destroyed. From this sentence one could tell how powerful it was. And the light of tribulation was a manifestation of the heavenly punishment. Whoosh! Wherever the light of tribulation arrived, all living beings ceased to exist. Everything was destroyed. And the light of tribulation was extremely fast, as if it had surpassed time and space. A moment ago, it was still far away in the horizon, but the next moment, it had arrived in front of the demon god Jidu and the demon god Jidu? He didn't react at all. The speed of the light of calamity was too fast. It was beyond his ability to think. Before he could react, the light of calamity had arrived in front of him. Therefore, he could only watch as the light of tribulation swept towards him. However, the demon god Jidu didn't have time to react,
but the god-slaying spear in his hand was sensitive enough. Just as the light of tribulation was about to brush onto the demon god Jidu, the god-slaying spear moved. Whoosh! The god-slaying spear broke free from the demon god Jidu's hand, ignoring time and space, and stabbed straight at the light of tribulation, blocking it. At the critical moment, it saved Jidu Clang. The light of tribulation was shattered by the god-slaying spear. But the demon god Jidu didn't have it easy either. The huge recoil was transmitted to his body through the god-slaying spear, almost shattering his physical body that he had painstakingly trained for many years. With one blow, Jidu was severely injured. Because the Luai's incarnation at this moment was not at the half-step primordial chaos realm, but at the third level of the primordial chaos realm. After the 4 heavenly gods were blessed by heaven and earth, they could at least exert the power of the third level of the primordial chaos realm. And because the heavenly emperor had a higher status, under the blessing of heaven and earth, he could at least exert the power of the 4th level of the primordial chaos realm. Compared to the 4 heavenly gods, he was 1 level higher to show the difference in status. The huge difference in realm allowed the Luai's incarnation to have a crushing advantage when facing the demon god Jidu. If not for the protection of the god-slaying spear, this blow would have directly killed the demon god Jidu. It had to be said that the Khanate cardinal treasure was really a good thing. It was enough to bridge the gap between realms, allowing a half-step primordial chaos expert to contend with a true primordial chaos expert for a short period of time. Buzz buzz buzz. After the first blow failed, the Luai's incarnation launched another attack. The eye of heavenly tribulation throbbed violently, and the light on its body became even more dazzling. Endless Taoist rhymes spewed out, transforming into a phantom of the 9 heavens in the air. Rumble! The 9 heavens shook. From bottom to top, it began to collapse layer by layer. And with the collapse of every layer of the heavenly domain, a beam of tribulation light was produced and blasted toward the demon god Jidu. The 9 heavens of the thunder domain were 9 beams of tribulation light. This was the supreme divine power derived from the Khanate thunder Tao. 9 heavens tribulation light. Swoosh swoosh swoosh. Beams of tribulation light fell, intending to beat the demon god Jidu into the dust. But the god-slaying spear lived up to its name of being number 1 in killing. Murderous intent surged around it, piercing, stabbing, sweeping, shattering the incoming beams of tribulation light. However, the gap was still too big. Even though the god-slaying spear tried its best to protect the demon god Jidu and block all the beams of tribulation light, the huge vibrating force still caused great damage to it. It was afraid that the demon god Jidu would not be able to withstand a few more attacks. With a Khanate cardinal treasure, it could only contend against primordial chaos Daluo Jinxian and not defeat him. Khanate cardinal treasures were not omnipotent. In the end, cultivators still relied on themselves. Bang! Seeing that the demon god Jidu's injuries were getting more and more serious, the god-slaying spear no longer hesitated and directly broke through the void, sweeping Jidu up and fleeing into the distance. Chase! Seeing this, the Thunderlock incarnation drove the eye of heavenly tribulation and hurriedly chased after it. Today, the demon god Jidu must die. It was not because Feng Zichen had a blood feud with the demon god Jidu, but because he saw a trace of the demon sect's deepest secret from the demon god Mahakala. Could it be that the original intention of the demon sect was to cultivate a suitable vessel for the chaos demon god to possess? The foundation of the demon sect was mainly body refinement. And the body refinement method of the demon sect was to imitate the body of the chaos demon god. If he was cultivating the Tao of the chaos demon god, the consequences were simply unimaginable. It would be fine if he had not attained great mastery. Once he attained great mastery, he would be the most suitable vessel for the chaos demon god and could be easily possessed by him. But this was not the most terrifying thing. The most terrifying thing was, when one's cultivation reached an extremely high level, it would resonate with the great Tao that one cultivated. In this way, one could directly summon the chaos demon god from the imprint of the great Tao and be directly replaced by someone else from the root. Everything would become someone else's wedding dress. The most uncomfortable thing was that he was the one who took the initiative the entire time and was not forced. This was a typical example of cultivating to the end and refining oneself into someone else. How sad was that? Moreover, this method of resurrection was directly from the source and would not be affected by the chaos demon god's true spirit, which was still in a sealed state. In the past, no one would have thought that Mount Buzhou would collapse. No one would have thought that the chaos demon god's true spirit would break out of the seal. Therefore, the demon ancestor Rahu racked his brains and came up with such a wonderful method to resurrect the chaos demon god. This method was indeed wonderful. If he had not seen the experience of the demon god Mahakala, Feng Zichen would not have thought of this. Speaking of which, who would have thought? The demon sect that ran amok in the primordial world back then, it was actually the factory that the demon ancestor Rahu used to cultivate the demon god's container? After thinking through this, Feng Zichen had to admire the wisdom of the demon ancestor Rahu. This was the ancestor of scheming. He schemed against others. He also wanted others to be grateful, to thank him for imparting the Tao. In comparison, Feng Zichen's scheming methods were somewhat unpresentable. It could be seen that, on the path of scheming, he still had room for improvement. At this moment, the chaos demon god's true spirit had already broken out of the seal for many years. It seemed that there was no need to replace the experts of the demon sect. But in fact, that was not the case. Who would complain about having too many incarnations? They did not make a move now because the strength of the experts of the demon sect was not enough. When their cultivation reached the level of primordial chaos Daluo Jingxian, the chaos demon gods would make a move. In this way, they would have multiple incarnations at the primordial chaos level. Wouldn't that be wonderful? And the cultivation of the demon god Jidu was already infinitely close to that of primordial chaos Daluo Jingxian. As long as he cultivated in seclusion for dozens of yuan hui, he might be able to break through. If such a person was not eliminated now, the next time they met, he would be a real chaos demon god. The slaughter demon god among the 3,000 demon gods. Jidu cultivated the path of slaughter, which corresponded to the slaughter demon god. Therefore he had to die. This was called weakening the enemy's strength in advance. Speaking of which, demon god Jidu was also a pitiful person. When he first started cultivating the path of demons, he might not have realized that this was a trap. Chapter 556. But by now, if he still could not discover the problem, then demon god Jidu would have lived in vain all these years. However, by the time he realized that there was a problem with the demonic path, it was already too late and there was no turning back. At this time, even if demon god Jidu stopped cultivating, the great Tao that he cultivated would involuntarily lean towards the Tao of darkness, slowly increasing his strength and transforming it into the most suitable vessel for the Dark Knight demon god. The stronger he was, the deeper his understanding of the Tao of darkness, the closer demon god Jidu would be to the Dark Knight demon god and instinctively lean towards him to become a part of him. At this time, it was no longer demon god Jidu controlling the great Tao, but the great Tao controlling Jidu. He had become the puppet of the great Tao of darkness and would appear for the Dark Knight demon god at any time. For people who cultivated the Tao of demon god, the lower their strength, the safer they would be. The stronger they were, the easier they would be affected by the chaos demon god and gradually become him. They did not even have the chance to resist. Because after reaching the Daluo Jingxian, it was almost impossible to change the great Tao, let alone reach the sage-to-be realm. The demonic path experts were all bound by their own great Tao and became the puppet of the chaos demon god. They could not control themselves at all. Once they reached the primordial chaos Daluo Jingxian and fully matured, the corresponding chaos demon god would appear to reap them. Tragic! How tragic! Therefore, Feng Zichen attacked demon god Jidu to release him, lest his hundreds of millions of years of cultivation become a wedding dress for others. It was not because he coveted his treasures. Yes, it was all for their own good. Buzz buzz buzz, the void vibrated, and the phantoms of thousands of gods appeared, chanting the great Tao and performing all kinds of mysterious powers, freezing the void. Who is it? Demon god Jidu, who was running for his life in the void, was suddenly frozen by this power and could not help but shout. Swish! A vast ancient painting appeared, and it was filled with the images of thousands of gods. It was extremely noble, and there was a strong aura around it, revealing a sacred and noble aura, showing the majesty of the divine Tao. This was the divine Tao treasure, the myriad god painting. Without a doubt, the North Star Emperor was here. After discovering the secret of the Devil sect, Great Emperor Gaochen didn't have time to refine the Devil God flag. After handing it over to Fengdu, he hurriedly rushed over to help Leijia kill Jidu. Zichen greets demon god Qidu. The North Star's incarnation slowly walked out of the void and greeted Jidu, great Taoist priests. Emperor Gaochen Tian Huang. Ji-du couldn't help but narrow his eyes when he heard Gao Chen revealing his origin. He said with an ugly expression. A single southern extremity longevity emperor was able to beat him into a sorry state. If an even stronger emperor Go Chen Tian emperor were to appear, wouldn't he be doomed? Feeling horrified, Fiend Celestial Ji-du was about to cast a fiendish mystic technique and burn his core essence to deliver a fatal blow, hoping to fight for a chance of survival. But he was fast. The North Star clone was even faster. He was afraid that if he delayed any longer, he would attract the attention of Rahu. The North Star's clone also made his move after greeting the North Star's clone. Boom! The great Tao furnace fell with a loud bang. It carried the might of a chaos demon god and suppressed Fiend Celestial Ji-du. It should be known that the North Star's incarnation had the strength of a third-level primordial chaos expert under the support of the power of his level. Casting the great Tao furnace under such power was a completely different scene. There were 300 marks of chaos demon gods engraved on his body. The aura of the great Tao around him seemed to carry the divine might of the great Tao. Its power was close to that of an innate cardinal treasure. When the great Tao furnace fell, the roars of chaos demon gods could be faintly heard. They seemed to be venting the resentment of being killed, which made the great Tao furnace even more eerie. Bang! As if the heavens and earth were pressing down, the god-slaying spear that was guarding Fiend Celestial Ji-du's side smashed the great Tao furnace into pieces after the intense collision. However, the god-slaying spear was also sent flying by the huge recoil. Kill! Seizing the opportunity, Feng Zichen took out the Zichen sword and slashed at Fiend Celestial Ji-du Russell. On the other side, Luai's incarnation arrived in time. He activated the Eye of Tribulation and shot out beams of tribulation light at the god-slaying spear to prevent him from saving Fiend Celestial Ji-du without the protection of the god-slaying spear. How could a mere half-step primordial chaos demon god be a match for the third-level primordial chaos demon god Gao Chen's incarnation? Not long after, Fiend Celestial Ji-du's physical body and primordial spirit were shattered by Zichen's sword. Only an innate indestructible true spirit was left floating in the void. Sigh! Fellow Taoist Ji-du, poor Wei is here to free you. Looking at Fiend Celestial Ji-du's true spirit, Feng Zichen sighed and said with slight melancholy. Then, he took out the million sword illustration and swept up Fiend Celestial Ji-du's innate indestructible true spirit. He was about to shatter it to free him. But at this moment, a sudden change occurred. Streaks of black airflow gushed out of Fiend Celestial Ji-du's true spirit, making him look extremely evil and noble. After sensing that Fiend Celestial Ji-du was in mortal danger, the corresponding Chaos Demon God descended. The Massacre Demon God of the 3,000 Chaos Demon Gods. Hee hee! How dare you kill my vessel? You must be tired of living. A voice filled with murderous intent sounded from Fiend Celestial Ji-du's true spirit. It was like the sound of Tao, like the cry of Tao. The Massacre Demon God spoke. In an instant, the sky darkened. Endless murderous intent gushed out from the void and swept across the sky and earth, dyeing the place red. Cold. Bone-chilling cold. Gao Chen and Luai's, who had long ignored the cold, once again felt the bone-chilling coldness under the Massacre Demon God's murderous intent. Dang! Without any hesitation, Gao Chen's incarnation activated the innate sword Tao and activated the million sword illustration with all his might. Suddenly, billions of sword lights burst out and shattered Fiend Celestial Ji-du's true spirit. At the same time, Luai's did not want to be left behind. The Eye of Tribulation released a dazzling brilliance and swept out a heavenly punishment tribulation light, destroying Fiend Celestial Ji-du's shattered true spirit. With that, Fiend Celestial Ji-du completely ceased to exist. I have remembered your auras. I will never let you go. With the object of possession destroyed, the Massacre Demon God had lost his backing. His descending process was forcefully interrupted, and he only had time to utter a sentence before slowly disappearing. What a joke! Dilly-dallying to save someone. Do you really think I'm a fool? I'll give you enough time to descend. Gao Chen's incarnation shook his head in disdain as he looked in the direction where the Massacre Demon God disappeared. He had not even fully descended, and he already dared to utter such words. Did he really think that they were made of clay and could only watch as he descended? The result would naturally be to get rid of him before he fully descended. As for the threat of the Massacre Demon God, Feng Zichen did not take it to heart at all. As one of Pangu's people,
He had long formed an irreconcilable feud with the Chaos Demon God. Adding more hatred now would only be a small matter, so there was no need to take it to heart. Keep. He activated the million sword illustration and swept it at the place where Fiend Celestial Jidu died, collecting all the treasures he dropped after his death. Although they were treasures, there were not many of them left. In order to kill Fiend Celestial Jidu in the shortest time possible, Feng Zichen's 2 incarnations went all out in every attack. Just imagine. Even Fiend Celestial Jidu was smashed into pieces. How many treasures could he leave behind? Other than Fiend Celestial Jidu's natal treasure, the supreme grade innate spirit treasure Fiend Celestial Jidu Spear, the rest of the treasures were all shattered. Even Fiend Celestial Jidu Spear was severely damaged and needed a long time to recover to its peak. This god-slaying spear. After cleaning up the battlefield, Luai's incarnation and Gaochen's incarnation set their eyes on the god-slaying spear. At this moment, due to Fiend Celestial Jidu's death, the god-slaying spear was quietly floating in the void. In other words, Feng Zichen only needed to reach out his hand to take this innate spirit treasure that was #1 in terms of killing power. However, Feng Zichen did not dare to do so. Without a doubt, as long as his hand touched the god-slaying spear, what awaited him would be Fiend Celestial Rahu's all-out attack. At that time, even if Feng Zichen did not die, he would be half-crippled. However, Feng Zichen could not bear to give up on the god-slaying spear just like that. Who did not want an innate spirit treasure? But soon, Feng Zichen did not need to be conflicted, because the god-slaying spear suddenly moved and stabbed straight at him. You killed our vice sect leader. You all deserve to die. Fiend Celestial Rahu's cold voice suddenly came from the spear. At the same time, boundless killing intent erupted and swept towards the two. Kill. Seeing this, Gaochen and Luais did not retreat. Instead, they advanced and used their supreme divine abilities to meet the god-slaying spear. If Fiend Celestial Rahu came personally, the two would not be a match for him even if they joined forces. However, it was only a divine consciousness that came. Even if he held the god-slaying spear, the two were not afraid at all. If the two joined forces and could not even defeat Fiend Celestial Rahu's divine consciousness, it would be really embarrassing. While Gaochen and Luais were fighting the god-slaying spear, on the other side, in the depths of the void, an even more intense battle was coming to an end. Boom! After all, the Dark Knight Demon God had just taken over the body and had not recovered to his peak state. He was no match for the combined power of Feng Zichen and Hao Tian. With a boom, his physical body was shattered by the two. Very well. I will remember the grudge of destroying my physical body. When I recover to my peak state, I will teach you all a lesson. After saying that, the Dark Knight Demon God swept up his shattered physical body and fled into the distance. However, Feng Zichen and Hao Tian had finally gained an overwhelming advantage. How could they let him escape? Thief, don't you dare run. Zhouxing painting sealed the space-time, Mei Luo Heaven's premier pagoda suppressed everything, and Feng Zichen even summoned the fragment of Mount Buzhou from the boundless starry sky, completely blocking the Dark Knight Demon God's escape route. Bastard! You forced me to do this. Seeing that there was no hope of escaping, the Dark Knight Demon God had to fight for his life. I offer my origin, reverse space-time, and summon the Tao fruit of my previous life. As he spoke, the Dark Knight Demon God began to ignite his origin. All kinds of mysterious fluctuations were emitted from his body, crossing space-time, surpassing the Eldritch world, and transmitted to the chaos outside the realm. The next moment, the chaos outside the realm shook. Spots of light appeared from the void. They were endless and gathered into a majestic figure. It crossed space-time and rushed toward the Eldritch world. Oh no! Seeing this scene, Feng Zichen and Hao Tian's expressions changed immediately. A great fear surged from the depths of their hearts. They recognized this secret skill. This was a kind of reincarnation secret skill. It could communicate with a long river of space-time and borrow power from the past and future that belonged to oneself. And obviously, the purpose of the Dark Knight Demon God using this skill, it was to borrow the Tao fruit of his previous life. Feng Zichen and Hao Tian did not know what realm the Dark Knight Demon God had reached in his previous life, but one thing was certain. They were definitely no match for him. Even if they only summoned 1/10,000th of his power, it would still be the same. Kill, we must not let him succeed.
With fear in their hearts, Feng Zichen and Hao Tian attacked together. They attacked the Dark Knight demon god with all their might, intending to kill him before the Tao fruit of his previous life descended. But unfortunately, it was too late. Just as Feng Zichen and Hao Tian attacked, an extremely majestic figure suddenly descended and merged with the Dark Knight demon god. Boom! The Dark Knight demon god's aura instantly soared. In the blink of an eye, he reached the peak of primordial chaos, the 12th level of primordial chaos. In the end, he was too severely injured. Even if he used a secret skill, the Dark Knight demon god could not return to his peak state. But just the 12th level of primordial chaos was enough to deal with Feng Zichen and Hao Tian. This was a power that they could not resist. Rumble! A powerful aura bloomed from the Dark Knight demon god's body, sending Feng Zichen and Hao Tian flying. There was no need to attack at all. Just the aura alone was enough to suppress the two of them. Hiss! So powerful! Climbing up from the void, Feng Zichen and Hao Tian gasped. This power was too strong. It was as if they were facing a Tao ancestor. They could not resist at all. What do we do now? Hao Tian asked with a frown. Drag it out. Do everything we can to drag it out. His power will definitely not last long. We just need to drag it out until his power is exhausted. Then our chance will come. Gritting his teeth, Feng Zichen said. The power obtained through a secret skill was destined to not last long. There was no doubt about it. The only thing they could do now was to wait for the Dark Knight demon god's secret skill to end. At that time, the Dark Knight demon god would fall into a period of weakness. He would be at their mercy. However, how to drag it out became the biggest problem in front of the two of them. Although I have not recovered to my peak, it should be enough to kill you. So die. Although he was not satisfied with his current power, his hatred for Feng Zichen and Hao Tian made the Dark Knight demon god temporarily put this unhappiness to the back of his mind. He raised his huge palm and slapped towards the two of them. Danger! Alarm bells rang in their hearts. Feng Zichen and Hao Tian did not dare to take it head-on. They turned around and dodged. But at this moment, an indescribable light came from the void and directly hit the Dark Knight demon god's body. It was Pangu's axe light. At the end of time and space, Pangu was fighting with 3,000 chaos demon gods. Any existence that dared to interfere with the past would be met with his axe. The power that the Dark Knight demon god borrowed from the past could not be hidden from Pangu. Therefore, an axe light came from the past and slashed the Dark Knight demon god's body fiercely. Those who move time recklessly, they would definitely be met with Pangu's painful attack. Chapter 557. The sudden attack wiped out the Tao fruit that the Dark Knight demon god had borrowed from the past, causing his power to fall back to his previous realm in an instant. Furthermore, due to the backlash of the secret technique, the Dark Knight demon god's power was still weakening even after he recovered to his original realm. Very soon, he fell to the first level of primordial chaos. Pangu Yu! After suddenly losing his superior power, the Dark Knight demon god's mentality collapsed. He could not help but roar and curse Pangu with hatred. But unfortunately, no matter how vicious his words were, the power he had lost could never be regained. Good chance! Feng Zichen and Hao Tian, who were already on the verge of despair under the attack of the Dark Knight demon god, could not help but feel relieved when they saw what was happening. How could the Dark Knight demon god, who was only at the first level of primordial chaos, be a match for the two of them? Kill! With a thought, the two of them took out their Dharma treasures and attacked the Dark Knight demon god. The closer it was to this moment, the more Feng Zichen and Hao Tian did not dare to get close to the Dark Knight demon god. They were really scared. Self-destruction was the specialty of the demon sect. Especially the Dark Knight demonic god now. He could be said to be in a situation where there was no door to heaven and no road to hell. All his paths of survival were sealed. At this moment, it was the best time to self-destruct. At this moment, if they were too close to the Dark Knight demon god, they would inevitably be dragged to the grave with him. Self-destruction was a method of mutual destruction. They were about to win, so they couldn't afford to lose at the last moment. That would be a huge loss. With that thought in mind, Feng Zichen and Hao Tian did not forget to widen the distance between themselves and the Dark Knight demon god as they attacked. The two of them were not good people either.
In the process of retreating, they intentionally or unintentionally fell back half a step to let the other party block in front. In this way, if the Dark Knight Demon God really self-destructed, there would be someone blocking in front and their chances of escaping would be higher. Unfortunately, the two of them had the same idea and naturally, no one was willing to fall behind. The two of them were helpless and could only advance and retreat together. Bang bang bang. On the other side, the Dark Knight Demon God whose strength had plummeted was in imminent danger under the joint attacks of Feng Zichen and Hao Tian. His physical body was completely shattered and his life force was completely wiped out. There was no possibility of recovery. His primordial spirit had also been shattered several times, and it was getting harder and harder to condense it. It wouldn't be long before it was completely destroyed. Of course, these were not the things that made the Dark Knight Demon God's heart ache the most. What made his heart ache the most was nightfall. Under the continuous attacks of the map of Zhouxing and the boundless heaven primeval pagoda, the Chaos Spirit treasure was severely damaged. It looked like it was about to fall from the Chaos Spirit treasure grade. How could the Dark Knight Demon God tolerate this? One had to know that the death of his incarnation was nothing. At most, he would lose a primordial chaos expert. But the knight was different. If this treasure was destroyed, would he be able to find a suitable spiritual treasure? There could be many incarnations, but Veil of Night only had one. Therefore the Dark Knight Demon God could tolerate the death of his incarnation, but he could not sit by and watch the night sky shatter. You forced me to do this. Let's die together. Scoundrel. Scoundrels. The Dark Knight Demon God was about to use the demon sect's secret technique to self-destruct, so that he could drag the two of them to die together. But just as he was about to make a move, he saw that the two despicable people had already hidden far away. Even if he self-destructed at this moment, the two of them could easily dodge and would not be able to hurt him at all. Seeing this, the Dark Knight Demon God's face darkened, and he could not help but curse the two of them. Leave. None of you can leave. With a loud roar, the Dark Knight Demon God rushed towards the two of them without caring about anything else. He planned to rush to their side and self-destruct. But knowing his plan, how could Feng Zichen and Hao Tian give him a chance to get close to them? Mount Buzhou seal. Suppress. Feng Zichen formed a seal with both hands, and the shadow of Mount Buzhou appeared, suppressing the past, present and future, pressing down on the Dark Knight Demon God. Xianxia heaven. Suppress. Hao Tian was not to be outdone. With a slight thought, the shadow of Xianxia heaven appeared, supporting Mount Buzhou, and pressing down on the Dark Knight Demon God. Rumble. Mount Buzhou held up Xianxia heaven, and half of the universe pressed down, directly fixing the Dark Knight Demon God on the spot. Dang! Seeing this, Feng Zichen and Hao Tian suddenly rushed forward, using their strongest attacks, and attacked the Dark Knight Demon God together, intending to kill him. However, just as the two strongest divine powers were about to land on the Dark Knight Demon God, the Dark Knight Demon God looked at the two of them with hatred, and suddenly burst into flames. He turned into a ray of Tao light, breaking free from the suppression of Mount Buzhou, and rushed into an unknown place. Without a doubt, the two of them's ultimate attack missed. Wait for my return. Is the time of your death? A faint Tao voice came from the void, and clearly fell into the ears of Feng Zichen and Hao Tian. That was the last voice of the Dark Knight Demon God. He escaped. How did he do it? Hao Tian was very confused. He could not understand how the Dark Knight Demon God escaped from the suppression, and then disappeared without a trace in front of the two of them. If the Dark Knight Demon God was still at his peak, he might be able to do it. However, his strength had already fallen to the first level of primordial chaos, so how could he disappear under the eyes of the two of them? It's a sacrifice. The Dark Knight Demon God sacrificed himself. After frowning and thinking for a while, Feng Zichen said slowly. He recognized the method of the Dark Knight Demon God's escape. It was an extremely ancient sacrifice method, born in the chaotic era. Through the great Tao, he could offer everything he had to the great existence in the unseen world. Who could resist the power of the great Tao? The Dark Knight Demon God had used this method to sacrifice himself to him. That's right, it was himself, or rather, his true body. It was undeniable that even if the Dark Knight Demon God's strength had fallen to the extreme, his true body was still incomparably great. There was nothing wrong with him sacrificing his incarnation to his great true body. Of course, it was not without a price to ask the great Tao to help. According to Feng Zichen's estimation, if half of the power he obtained from sacrificing his incarnation reached his true body, it would be considered merciful. Sacrifice? I see. When Hao Tian heard this, he understood the meaning behind it. The method of sacrifice could communicate with heaven and earth. It could be said to be wonderful, and almost every great magician had mastered one or two of them. Of course, Feng Zichen knew it too, and it was the highest level among them, the kind that could directly communicate with the heavenly Tao. The incense divine Tao itself was a kind of application of the laws of heaven and earth. It could be said to be the inheritance of the heavenly Tao. Not to mention, to confer a god, one needed to sacrifice to heaven and earth to obtain the recognition of heaven. Feng Zichen's method of sacrifice was comprehended from the myriad god painting, and it could be said to be passed down by the heavenly Tao. The power of sacrifice? Interesting. Perhaps I can deduce a divine ability based on this. The Dark Knight demon god's actions could be said to have reminded Feng Zichen. In the past, he did not pay much attention to the method of sacrifice. But now it seemed that there were still many things worth exploring about the method of sacrifice. For example, now, Feng Zichen suddenly thought of a novel he had read in his previous life. There was a supreme divine ability in it that was created based on the method of sacrifice. That supreme divine ability was called the blood altar. Perhaps it was because too much time had passed that Feng Zichen could not remember the name clearly. However, Feng Zichen still remembered its function clearly. That was to resurrect the dead. Using the blood of 10,000 spirits to build a blood-colored altar, placing the relics of the dead on it, and then activating the altar, one could summon the broken true spirit of the dead, allowing it to be reborn and walk in the world again. In the past, he did not think much of it, but now that he thought about it, this divine ability could be said to be heaven-defying. It was simply tailor-made for Daluo Jingxian. One had to know that the Daluo Jingxian in the primordial world was already immortal and indestructible. However, it was extremely difficult for him to return from his long slumber. He needed to wait for a long time. At the very least, Feng Zichen had only seen 2 Daluo Jingxian who had returned from their slumber since he came to the primordial world for so long. They were the Dark Nether Dragon Venerable and the Zi clan. From this, it could be seen how difficult it was to resurrect Daluo Jingxian. However, with the blood altar, everything would be different. With the help of this divine ability, the speed of Daluo Jingxian's resurrection would undoubtedly be greatly increased. It could even be said that with the blood altar, it was equivalent to having a second life. This supreme divine ability had to be created. Thinking of the benefits of the blood altar, Feng Zichen secretly made a decision. Although this supreme divine ability was just the imagination of an author in his previous life, and there was nothing magical about it. However, this was the primordial world where Daluo Jingxian walked everywhere. This place could be cultivated. And what was cultivation? It was to turn the impossible into the possible, subvert all known knowledge, and have the power to break the rules. It didn't matter if it wasn't magical. As long as he had the idea, Feng Zichen could completely deduce this supreme divine ability. In the eyes of mortals, the unrealistic fantasies of mortals were impossible to achieve, so they were called unrealistic. However, the gods and devils didn't think so. They had supreme power and could turn the unrealistic fantasies of mortals into reality. This was cultivation, making dreams come true. This was why the people of the world were painstakingly seeking the Tao. With strength, one could get whatever they wanted. Even if it didn't exist in the world, they could create it out of thin air. After putting away the thoughts in his heart, Feng Zichen and Hao Tian left the depths of the void. Although the blood altar was good, now was not the time to deduce it. There was still a big problem that had not been solved. That was demon ancestor Rahu. As the aura of the Dark Knight demon god disappeared, demon ancestor Rahu was completely enraged. He sacrificed his cultivation to condense a 5th-level primordial chaos incarnation and descended here. He held the god-slaying spear and fought with Gauchen Luais. As such, the two of them were no match for demon ancestor Rahu. In a few breaths, they were beaten back. If not for the two of them being mentally connected, they would not have been beaten back but severely injured. Fortunately, demon ancestor Rahu didn't stay arrogant for long.
Feng Zichen and Hao Tian arrived and joined forces with Gaochen Luais to fight against demon ancestor Rahu. 1 Celestial the Arch, 3 deities, a total of 4 supremes of heaven and earth. With this power, it could be said that except for the Earth Empress, all the rulers of the primordial world in name had arrived. The demon ancestor's prestige was great. Good, good, good. It's really good. Looking at the 4 people in front of him, demon ancestor Rahu was so angry that he couldn't speak. 2 primordial chaos experts. They were gone just like that. They were killed by the 4 of them. It could be said that even when he was forced to self-destruct by Tao ancestor Hongjun back then, demon ancestor Rahu was not so angry. With the fall of Jidu and the Dark Knight demon god, the demon sect could no longer be described as suffering a serious injury. It was not an exaggeration to say that it was a broken family. Its strength had been weakened by at least half. Therefore, demon ancestor Rahu was so angry that he did not hesitate to sacrifice his cultivation to condense an incarnation. It was all to vent his anger here. If he did not kill them, how could the demon sect have the face to stay in the primordial world? It's just a small achievement. It's far from worthy of such praise. Feng Zichen smiled and said. As he spoke, he took a step forward and confronted demon ancestor Rahu. The other 3 also took a step forward and stood together with Feng Zichen. First kill our deputy sect master, then kill our acting sect master. Have you thought about how you want to die? Even though he was fighting 1 against 4, demon ancestor Rahu was still fearless and even threatened. Death, we have never thought about it. Demon ancestor, you should think about how to survive against the 4 of us. Shaking his head, Feng Zichen said. In his opinion, demon ancestor Rahu was simply courting death. If the 4 of them joined forces, even if demon ancestor Rahu himself came, it was still unknown who would win. An incarnation dared to speak arrogantly and did not take the 4 of them seriously. He was really courting death. It had to be admitted that demon ancestor Rahu's incarnation was indeed very strong. It had the cultivation of the 5th level of primordial chaos. No one present could compare to it except for Hao Tian. In addition, he held the connate cardinal treasure, the god-slaying spear. No one present was his match. Demon ancestor Rahu was indeed invincible. However, he did not understand one thing. When Feng Zichen and the other 3 joined forces, it was not as simple as 1 + 1 + 1 + 1. If the 4 mid-stage primordial chaos experts joined forces, demon ancestor Rahu might be able to win. However, when the 3 heavenly emperors and a celestial emperor joined forces, they could unleash the true celestial emperor's power. They even dared to fight against a 12th level primordial chaos expert. In this way, a mere 5th level primordial chaos demon ancestor's incarnation was nothing. It seems that after not fighting for so long, the primordial chaos can no longer remember my methods. It's time for you to feel the horror of demons again. After being provoked by Feng Zichen, demon ancestor Rahu, who was already angry, became even angrier. He raised the god-slaying spear in his hand and was about to end one of them to re-establish his prestige. However, before he could do anything, Feng Zichen and the other 3 attacked first. The boundless starry sky appeared behind Feng Zichen. The vast celestial court appeared behind Hao Tian. The shadows of gods appeared behind Gaochen. The divine firmament 9 heavens appeared behind Lei Zhe. The 4 phenomena met in the sky and gradually formed the complete primordial chaos celestial realm. Chapter 558. At the same time, under the summoning of the 4 supreme beings of heaven and earth, the projection of the wilderness began to slowly form. It appeared under the projection of the heaven realm and behind the 4 of them. At this moment, the entire wilderness, except for the underground netherworld, was projected here. It hung high in the void, emitting a heart-palpitating fluctuation. Fiend ancestor, please be on your way. Under the projection of heaven and earth, the 4 of them bowed respectfully to fiend ancestor Rahu. Then, an indescribable god's projection quietly appeared between heaven and earth. This was the Celestial the Arch. The real Celestial the Arch. The supreme ruler of the wilderness, controlling everything in the wilderness, billions of space-time, all fates, and all sentient and heartless beings. He could mobilize all the power of the wilderness. Therefore, His strength was comparable to the heavenly Tao. He could be said to be invincible in the wilderness. Of course, because of the lack of the Earth Empress, the celestial the Arch summoned by Feng Zichen and the others was not the complete version. His strength was not at the level of invincibility in the wilderness. But even so, he could not be underestimated. With the support of many authorities, this celestial the Arch projection could at least unleash the power of primordial chaos stage 10. Kill! Killing intent surged in the four of them as they roared at fiend ancestor Rahu. Then, the celestial the Arch projection moved in response and glanced at fiend ancestor Rahu. Rumble! With just a casual glance, the Tao of heaven and earth actually shook and deduced all kinds of mysterious laws. They turned into a vast torrent of great Tao that surged toward fiend ancestor Rahu. Oh no! After seeing the celestial the Arch projection appear, fiend ancestor Rahu knew that things were not good. He wanted to escape, but he was locked down by an invisible force. The surrounding space-time also solidified, so he could not escape and could only resist this divine ability. Explode! Without time to think, fiend ancestor Rahu rushed toward the four of them, ready to use his strongest technique, self-destruction. But unfortunately, the celestial the Arch projection was too powerful. Before fiend ancestor Rahu's figure could reach the four of them, he was drowned by the torrent of great Tao and gradually dissipated. When the torrent of great Tao dissipated, fiend ancestor Rahu's figure had already disappeared. Only a blood-colored spear was left lying there quietly. Fiend ancestor Rahu's avatar was dead, killed by a single glance from celestial Thearka's projection. No one doubted that fiend ancestor Rahu was weak. That could only mean that the celestial the Arch-Phantom was very strong, unimaginably strong. A single glance was enough to destroy the incarnation of fiend ancestor Rahu, who had a 5th-level primordial chaos cultivation base. What terrifying power was this? And this was only a phantom image of the real heavenly emperor. If the real celestial emperor were to descend, how powerful would he be? Even if Tao ancestor Hongjun personally came, he would still be far from being his match. For a time, the two people present had an unprecedented desire for the true position of heavenly emperor. If he could become a real celestial emperor, no one in the untainted land would be able to escape from him. Feng Zichen and Haotian looked at each other at the same time. They looked at each other in silence. From each other's eyes, the two of them understood each other's thoughts. He wanted to unify the primordial world and truly dominate the primordial world. He wanted to become the master of the primordial world. However, the thoughts Feng Zichen and Haotian saw from each other's eyes were only at a gradual level. They could not see the deepest level of thoughts. For example, Haotian thought that he was the common ruler of the untainted land, and Great Emperor Ziwei was the sub-ruler of the untainted land. He was destined to become the next celestial emperor after him. In that case, the two of them could work together. As long as he could get the full help of Great Emperor Ziwei, Haotian believed that it might not be long before he could take back the authority that belonged to Celestial Emperor. In this way, with the support of heaven and earth, he would soon achieve the Tao and transcend heaven and earth. Then, he could step down from the position of Celestial Emperor and pass it to Great Emperor Ziwei to help him achieve the Tao. Great Emperor Ziwei would help him gather power. After he stepped down, he would pass on the complete position of Celestial Emperor to Great Emperor Ziwei. He would not need to spend so much effort to scheme against everyone after he ascended the throne. Therefore, Great Emperor Ziwei helping him was not entirely for him, but also to help himself. This plan could be said to be the best of both worlds. Haotian felt that this plan was completely feasible. After that, he might be able to persuade Great Emperor Ziwei to work together for a great cause. Haotian thought very beautifully. The plan could also be said to be excellent. But obviously, Feng Zichen did not think so. Now, he already occupied 3 of the positions of the 4 Imperials. Even the last one was in cahoots with him. It could be said that as long as he was willing, he could take over Haotian at any time. In fact, the current Feng Zichen only needed to wait for Haotian to make a big mistake. Then he could use this as an excuse to change the dynasty. In this way, how could Feng Zichen, who controlled more than half of the power of the heavenly court, be willing to wait for Haotian to abdicate? Besides, even if Feng Zichen was willing, it would take at least tens of millions of years or even billions of years for Haotian to abdicate. He definitely did not have the patience to wait for such a long time.
If Hao Tian really colluded with Great Emperor Ziwei to deal with the other three great emperors, the consequences were simply unimaginable. He would definitely be tricked to death by Feng Zichen. Hee. Each of them had their own plans. They laughed dryly and turned to look at the god-slaying spear at the same time. The demon ancestor Rahu had died too quickly, so he did not have time to send the god-slaying spear away. This caused the treasure to be left here. How should we deal with this god-slaying spear? Looking at the god-slaying spear, Feng Zichen said with a headache. If Rahu, the demon ancestor, had really fallen, he would have taken away this primordial cardinal treasure without saying a word. But the problem was that the demon ancestor Rahu was not dead yet. If anyone dared to take the god-slaying spear, not only would they not be able to refine it, but they might also be poked with a hole one day and be quietly killed by the demon ancestor. However, it was absolutely impossible to just leave it here and not care about it. How could he throw away something that was already in his hands? Not to mention, it was a connate cardinal treasure like the god-slaying spear. Even if they could not use it and left it in the warehouse to collect dust, they could not leave it to the demon sect to avoid increasing their strength. Fellow Taoist Ziwei, why don't you bring it back to Ziwei Star and suppress it with the boundless starry sky? After a while Hao Tian said. Haha. Fellow Taoist Hao Tian, you really know how to joke. If you want to suppress it, you should bring it back to the Daluo sky and suppress it with the origin of the heaven realm. My boundless starry sky can't suppress a weapon like the god-slaying spear. Hearing this, Feng Zichen sneered a few times and said coldly. Hao Tian's words were really a little foolish. If the boundless starry sky was in its peak state, not to mention the god-slaying spear, even the demon ancestor Rahu could be suppressed. But the boundless starry sky was still in a damaged state and could not withstand the torment. If the god-slaying spear was suppressed there, it would be equivalent to burying a time bomb. Once the demon ancestor Rahu came to cause trouble, the consequences would be unimaginable. You must be joking, you must be joking. Hao Tian laughed a few times and did not reply. The boundless starry sky was not in a good state, and the heaven realm was not in a good state either. The 33 heavens had just been established and had not yet been completely stabilized, so it could not withstand the torment of the demon ancestor Rahu. But, fellow Taoist, your words have reminded me. Suddenly, Feng Zichen's heart skipped a beat. He thought of a wonderful place and said to Hao Tian. Fellow Taoist Hao Tian, do you still remember the location of the Purple Cloud Palace? Was there a more suitable place in the primordial world than the Purple Cloud Palace to suppress the god-slaying spear? Feng Zichen did not believe that the demon ancestor Rahu would dare to go to the Purple Cloud Palace to snatch the god-slaying spear. Moreover, Tao ancestor Hongjun and the demon ancestor Rahu could be said to be old enemies, the kind that would not rest until one of them was dead. If the god-slaying spear fell into his hands, the demon ancestor Rahu would definitely not be able to snatch it back. I remember, but why did fellow Taoist Ziwei suddenly ask about this? Could it be? Hao Tian was not a fool. After thinking for a while, he understood Feng Zichen's plan. Brilliant! Fellow Taoist Ziwei's method is really brilliant. However, in this way, the demon ancestor Rahu will probably hate the four of us to death. After shaking his head and sighing, Hao Tian began to mark the location of the Purple Cloud Palace in front of Feng Zichen. After what had just happened, the demon ancestor Rahu would not let them off even if this matter did not happen. Then, why should they show mercy to the demon ancestor? Moreover, if they suppressed the god-slaying spear now, the demon ancestor Rahu's strength would weaken a little. When the demon ancestor came to take revenge in the future, their chances of survival would be correspondingly higher. Everyone, let's do it. Then the four of them, with Hao Tian as the leader and Feng Zichen as the support, jointly raised the god-slaying spear and blasted it toward the Purple Cloud Palace. Rumble! The god-slaying spear pierced the void and opened a passage that led directly to the primordial chaos beyond the heavens, heading straight for the Purple Cloud Palace. In the depths of the primordial chaos beyond the heavens, no matter how turbulent the primordial chaos was, a purple palace that emitted a mysterious Taoist rhyme still stood there quietly, as if it had been there since ancient times. But today, this tranquility was broken. A blood-red spear broke through the void at an unimaginable speed, fiercely slamming open the door and rushing into the palace, destroying countless artifacts. Nonsense! At the gate of witchcraft, Ancestor Hongjun, who was confronting the chaos demon god, sensed the movement in the Purple Cloud Palace and could not help but smile. Then, he laughed and scolded.
waving the horsetail whisk in his hand. The next moment, the purple cloud palace in the distance immediately sensed it. As if time had flowed backward, everything returned to its original state. The only difference was that in the depths of the purple cloud palace, there was an additional blood-red spear firmly suppressed there. The purple cloud palace itself was a powerful magic treasure. At the very least, it was not inferior to a primordial absolute treasure. With the support of the Way of Heaven, its power had reached an unimaginable level. Therefore, even if Ancestor Hongjun was not here now, suppressing the god-slaying spear was easy. My friends hiding in the dark, even the demon ancestor has been defeated. Why are you still not retreating? After sending the god-slaying spear to the purple cloud palace, Feng Zichen and the others did not leave. Instead, they shouted into the void. The demon sect was not the only people who had designs on the Tree of World. It was just that the demon sect had taken the lead because of their powerful strength. There were also many supreme experts who had lived from the Archean Age to the present day in the dark, as well as some of the 3,000 guests of the Purple Cloud Palace with evil intentions. The untainted land was too big, so no one knew how many experts were hidden in the untainted land. The temptation of a primordial treasure was too great, enough to make these people hiding in the dark take the risk. Feng Zichen and Hao Tian were lying in ambush here not only to guard against the demon sect, but also to guard against those experts whose attitudes were unknown. After waiting for a long time, no one answered, but the aura hidden in the dark had decreased by a lot. It seemed that the failure of the demon sect had deterred many people, and some of them had retreated. However, they could not let their guard down. There were still some people who had not left in the dark, waiting for the opportunity to attack. Alas! This is troublesome. Although they were angry, Feng Zichen and the other three had no choice. They could only work together to set up a peerless killing array around the Tree of World to guard against someone secretly attacking. After the killing array was set up, Hao Tian, Lei Zhe, and Gao Chen left, leaving Feng Zichen alone to guard the Tree of World. There was no choice. The Tree of World was very important, but it did not need 4 people to guard it. Feng Zichen alone was enough. The most important thing now was to quickly wipe out the chaos of the ferocious beasts and return peace to the untainted land. Darkness, despair, filth. This was the deepest part of the northern underworld, and also the filthiest place in the untainted land. It was also the home of all things in the world, the graveyard of the world. Without a doubt, this was the ultimate, the most mysterious and dangerous place in the untainted land. Boundless chi of eradication floated in the deepest part of the ultimate, waiting for the day to erupt and destroy everything. However, the principle of the world could not escape the principle of things going in the opposite direction when they reached an extreme. It was the same even for the dangerous ultimate. At the deepest part of the ultimate, the place that should be filled with the most despairing chi of destruction, the reality was completely different. Pure white lotus flowers were like a white sea, rooted at the bottom of the ultimate. They fed on the filthy chi of eradication and grew healthily, purifying everything in this place and bringing a trace of vitality to the ultimate that was filled with destruction. And in this sea of white flowers, there was a huge lotus flower that was especially strange. It was born black and white. Half of it was black, representing pure destruction, while the other half represented the ultimate creation. This lotus flower coexisted with destruction and creation. It was contradictory and strange, but it also inexplicably conformed to a certain great Tao trajectory. On the petals, there were 2 huge eggs covered in mysterious Tao patterns. One was black and one was white, and they were extremely mysterious. That's right, the black egg nurtured Feng Zichen's ultimate incarnation, the ultimate divine son, who wielded the Tao of eradication. And the white egg nurtured the ultimate goddess, a connate god fiend that was born by the ultimate origins. She wielded the Tao of creation. Originally, these 2 connate god fiends that were born in the ultimate needed millions of years of gestation before they could truly be born. But with the rise of the fiendish Tao, the murderous aura in the world rose, resulting in endless killing in the primordial world, producing large amounts of filthy chi. And most of this filthy chi flowed into the ultimate to strengthen its ultimate origins. Under this influence, the birth of the 2 children of the ultimate undoubtedly sped up greatly. A day's work was equivalent to 100 years of work. Therefore, in just a few hundred years, the 2 children of the ultimate welcomed their birth. Buzz buzz buzz, an inexplicable Tao rune spread from the void and quickly spread throughout the entire ultimate.
You're tuning in to the Wisdom Diary YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.